Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. Pursuant to the Governor's July 16, 2022 Act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Section 30A, Paragraph 20. The Holliston School Committee will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the town's webpage as soon as possible in accordance with keeping the public information informed of actions during the meeting. At this time, a roll call attendance vote will be taken. Mr. Alfred? Ms. Fitzgerald? Ms. Naborski? Ms. Bigelow?
Present.
Ms. Listevnik?
Present.
Ms. Gupta?
Present.
And is Ms. Koshin here?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so the first item on the agenda will be to determine a new chair and vice chair for our group.
Point of order. We have to waive our policy because we're supposed to reorganize after graduation, and this is
Thank you.
before graduation, so we just have to waive that aspect of the policy.
Okay. Do we have the policy number, Mr. Sedgwick?
EGF.
EGF? BGF. Okay.
A motion by Don Naborski to waive policy BGF. I'm sorry.
Sorry. EGF is the waiver policy.
Oh, I'm sorry. BGF, citing BGF, the waiver policy, to waive the policy where we typically reorg immediately following graduation. And just the reason why is, as Dr. Savard is no longer here, we would have to vote an interim chair. And then at the very next meeting, we would have to vote for a chair and vote for the rest of our reorg. So at this time, where there's a lot of important things to address, it's probably important to just move up the reorg. So for that purpose, do we have the actual policy that talks about when we reorg?
That's BDA.
Yeah,
BDF.
it's on the agenda.
Okay. So
it's like
I'm bringing a motion to waive the BDA policy requirement that has us reorganizing after graduation and move forward with reorganization today.
So motion
Second.
by Dawn, seconded by
Second.
Cynthia. All those in favor?
We need a roll call for different.
Oh, right. Roll
'Cause we're
call.
on-
Mr. Alfred?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Listevnik?
Yes.
And Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Okay, so now we can move on to our reorganization for policy BDA.
I would like to nominate Don Naborski as chair of the school committee for the 2023-24 school year.
Second.
I am going to reject that nomination. That is not something that, I guess to quote Catherine, I know what the job entails, and I cannot take that on this year. I would be willing to be vice, and that's something that I had expressed interest in. I also have a strong desire to be on budget and be chair of budget again. And I just know in balance that it's not something that I can take on for this next year. So I would also like to make a motion, and my motion is to nominate Dan Alfred.
Okay, so
Second.
we have a second for Mr. Alfred. Any other nominations for chair? So we have one nomination on the table, so I think it would be time for a roll call vote. Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Listevnik?
No.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
And do you vote,
I'll
or
abstain.
Mr. Alfred's abstaining? Okay, so that is a 4-1 vote. So we are moving forward with Mr. Alfred as the chair. Thank you, Mr. Alfred. Mr. Alfred's going to switch seats. And I will defer to Mr. Alfred and let him lead the rest of the meeting. Thank you for that.
Sure. This is fun. 5 minutes in. So at this time, I think we're going to take nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Dawn Naborski for vice chair.
Second?
Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Cynthia?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Minnie?
Yes.
And I'm Dan. Yes. Dawn?
Yes.
So moved. And my computer restarted, so. Does anyone have a printout of the agenda?
I am good with this.
Oh, there's actually a now. Okay, so now we're moving on to the establishment of subcommittees, or really the establishment of the membership of the subcommittees. So we'll start, well, where do we want to start? Okay, well, we'll start with budget then. So, I'll entertain motions for chair of budget.
I nominate Dawn for chair of budget.
Second?
Second?
It's fine, I'll let Minnie have the second. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll proceed to a roll call. Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, congratulations. For the other members, so I think maybe the ideal thing is just talk about who's interested in these positions, and then, or do you want to just continue on?
I think we should appoint chairs first.
Okay. So then we'll move on to policy.
I nominate Cynthia Lesebnik for the policy chair.
Second.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
Moving on to superintendent evaluation.
I nominate Minnie as chair of superintendent evaluation.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay. Dawn,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Dan, yes. Communications.
I nominate Amanda as chair of communications.
Second.
Okay, any other? Okay. Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I am yes. I really wish we were not.
As a point of order also, we don't, just because I listed subcommittees like start times in green doesn't mean we can pause those committees, or if there's not
Yeah.
enough interest in having a committee, we don't have to have the committee. So I only see that Minnie's interested in doing start times. We don't necessarily have to do that. Dawn listed interested in green. We also don't have to. Or it can be like it meets 4 times a year or something like that.
Yeah.
I would say we can pause them. We have enough on our plates, I think, this year. With negotiations and other things. I think
Sure.
it's gonna-
I
My
guess
opinion.
as to green, I would be in favor of pausing maybe until we at least get through until December, January. But I feel like I don't know that we've had it going for the last 2 or 3 years, and I just want to make sure it's something we get back to and revisit. So if there's anyone else that's interested in being part of this with me, I would like to see it next year, but we can start off slow.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would also do it.
I'm sorry, I can release that.
Green.
The Green Committee.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to continue on and appoint a green committee?
Yes.
I can have it on paper, yes.
So then I'll take a nomination for chair of the green committee.
I nominate Cynthia. Do you have an interest in that?
Sure.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I mean, yes. Okay, so with that, why don't we start and go back to budget and talk about membership? I would just say that I think that.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
Are we doing the start times or no?
Oh, okay, yep, sorry, yep, my mistake. I was looking on the sheet we got to green, and so anyway,
I nominate Minnie to chair start time, but are we sure, do we have sufficient interest for other people to join as well?
I remain on that committee as well.
Okay. I nominate Minnie to chair.
In that case, I would nominate Amanda Wintern. Amanda.
I would also nominate you. Could we co-chair it, Minnie?
Yeah, I think that would be bad. First half I do, second half you.
Okay.
I've read policy. I'm not sure if that's going to be complying with policy, but I don't have a problem with it. So,
You cannot, maybe it's not a subcommittee, maybe it's just a
well, it is
a task force.
It is currently an established committee.
It is, but we can not have it be a subcommittee and make it a task force, so then it can have just 2 members on it.
Okay.
Does that interest you?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah, that should be fine.
so I'll second Minnie and Amanda being on a start times task force.
Awesome.
Awesome, thank you.
No, I was
No,
seconding Minnie.
sorry. Got it.
Well, actually, technically, there was no first for the nomination for both of them, so I'll do both of them, and then you can second it.
Okay.
And then we'll go. All right, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia.
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay. Now, back to budget. I would like to be on budget, and I think, given that Amanda so nicely agreed to step off budget last year to make way for somebody else, that I think that she would be a good third member.
I would be glad to do it. I also know Cynthia has experience on budget, and I would be happy to defer to her either way.
You also deferred last year and the year before, didn't you?
Yep. But that's okay.
I think it might be a good idea for you to learn the ropes also. What do you think? I know
It's your
Cynthia's
choice, Amanda.
awesome, but
I'm happy to be on it or not be on it.
I too am happy to be on it or not be on it, but I am interested in learning about the budget. I am a mathematician, so if it's okay with everyone else, I'd be glad to join that committee.
Can you just check to see if Lisa's on? She's sent me a text that she said
He's trying to get on.
I do not have anyone in the waiting room at this time.
I agree. Sorry. Sorry. My bad.
Okay. Yeah, not in the waiting room.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll move on.
We'll move on. I mean, you have an interest in being on budget. I think you should do it.
I think it's a natural fit for me. Yeah.
Well, I think after 11 years on a finance committee, I think, and the fact that you've worked with us on working groups and been liaison to school committee, that makes sense.
I would say it's a lot to be chair and be on budget. That's what I would say.
It has certainly been done multiple times in the past, so I don't
know.
think that that's a... Well, would someone like to make a motion for the 2 other members of budget?
I put in a motion for, I move a motion for Amanda and Dan to be on the budget team.
And
I'll second.
Yeah. So we'll go to a vote. Minnie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
I'm yes. So policy. So we've
Is
got-
there an interest for Amanda and Minnie to join policy?
I just want to, Sarah hasn't been on a committee yet.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
can we, I think it's a good place for someone new to start.
Yeah,
So I
and
would like Sarah to be on that.
And I would like to defer to that, so I would like, I would also like Sarah. I think that would be a good thing. So I would like to step away.
I'm already doing communications and budget, so I should step away from policy.
So would it make sense then for Minnie and Sarah to do policy? And Cynthia, are you thinking that the policy meetings would typically be during the school day?
Yep, well, they're during the afternoons usually,
Okay.
and it's monthly.
And
at a minimum.
Is there some flexibility to have them in the morning as well as the afternoon?
Sure.
The inflexibility was from me, so if I'm not on it, there'll actually be more flexibility.
But Sarah, is that something, I know it would be your first time on policy, and just in terms of when they would meet, it's typically in central office during the school day.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so in that case, I would be happy to be on policy.
Okay, I move that Minnie and Sarah join Cynthia on policy.
Second.
Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, superintendent evaluation. Who we have Minnie's current is chair, right? Is that what we? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would like to have Cynthia on board for that.
Okay.
I know you didn't express an interest in that, but
I mean, I'd be willing to do it.
So you just look at the spreadsheet, it's me and Dawn who have expressed interest with Minnie.
so
Well, I would have put all of them on there, but I didn't want to be expressing interest in every single one, but I would
mean,
do
either
any
way,
single one of them.
fine.
It's
I
not,
mean, and I think with Dawn and I actually didn't check it, but Dawn and Dan, both of you.
Okay. Dan, I'll defer to you on it. I've been on it before, and I think it would be, could be something, and I know Minnie has been on it as well as Cynthia. Is it something you would take on?
Yes.
I'll step away from it.
So then so you think me and Cynthia?
Yes,
Along with Minnie?
with Minnie.
Okay.
I nominate Dan and Cynthia to join Minnie on superintendent eval.
Second.
Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Communications, this was the real popular one.
So I would love to have Lisa, because she's so experienced on communications with the newsletter and that, if that's, she's not here, but if we think that would be okay with her.
We can draft her.
A second, yeah.
And then whoever else is interested.
Sarah, do you want to join?
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. You'd be great on that.
So Lisa and
Yeah,
Sarah.
I think so too.
Great.
I nominate, or I move that Lisa and Sarah join communications.
Second.
Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Sorry, just trying to get Lisa in, but I don't know if I gave her the wrong link or. Okay, so we've got start times, and then, forgive me, do we fill out green at the same time, or do we?
We
just-
did.
We
Okay,
did.
so we're good. So we're moving on to liaisons now. So the PTO liaisons, it could easily be a two-person sort of job. I know in the past there's been separate from the different sort of.
Yeah, we usually have a primary and a secondary backup, so, and PTO is supposed to, as Sarah said, it's supposed to be just one. That's my
Yeah, there's
bad
just
for
one
putting
PTO,
both.
so there's two columns here, but
So it
they're
looks
the
like
same.
Sarah and I could both do
yeah,
it.
that'd be great.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Do we need a motion for those liaisons?
Sure.
Okay, I move that Sarah and Cynthia be the PTO liaisons.
Second.
Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia, yeah.
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
I'm a yes. If we don't need motions for these, we can speed things along and not have the votes. That's fine with me. S&S,
Safe and supportive schools.
okay?
Is that still active, Dr. Casca? Sorry, safe and supportive schools, is that still an active council?
Not really. We haven't really had separate meetings for that.
Okay,
And I was going to suggest, I think because we don't have anyone hybrid, can't you skip the roll call?
Well, Lisa
Yeah.
keeps trying to get in,
Oh,
so that's the
okay.
only, so
Okay.
I'm trying
I'm
to.
going to
Sorry.
resend her the link now.
okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can go through all the liaisons and then just
Sure,
go at the
let's do
end.
that.
Yeah.
It'll be a
All right,
lot
so-
easier.
So CPAC, I was the only one that expressed interest.
Lisa typically does like to
Yeah.
be on CPAC, though.
Okay, so we can do, I'm fine with either Lisa being it, or we can both be it, I don't, it doesn't,
You could have a primary, secondary.
Sure.
So we can just add Lisa.
Okay, we'll do that. Haba, Sarah, you express interest, okay. HMAPA, Cynthia,
I can be your backup, Cynthia.
okay. Diverse Holliston, Amanda, and I know
And
Lee.
Lisa is often on it as well.
Okay, so let's use her as a backup to you.
Yeah.
So I will flag. That is,
So the flag field, that's.
oh, this is actually
Yeah,
flag.
This is a like discussion around the flag courtyard. This one was one that we talked about wanting to put on the docket for this past year or this year. So I feel like that's something that we need to liaison with Dr. Jordan on. But it's not necessarily a committee at this point. It's more of like, is it going to be a task force or a council or?
I think it might be more of a task force, I think, unless you had a vote, because the only time we'd have to
Like
vote
the
is
word
if it's
task force. Can somebody help me with another word?
Right.
land would be, to discuss the land potentially.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So are we looking for 2 people on that?
I mean, sure. The more the merrier.
Okay.
If we wanted to, yeah. Do we want more than 2 people?
Well, once you get to there, you're saying.
I know. I
So
want to know.
why don't we start with you two, and then we can
Okay.
form a subcommittee or something more.
If we think it's more
yeah.
good or, right.
Okay, Youth and Family Services. Cynthia, any other ones interested?
I wouldn't,
Okay, so we're back up to Cynthia or be co with her? Okay. And then ARPA. I put that down, but Cynthia, if you want to continue to.
Well, it's like, we're at the end of the cycle of ARPA, so I just sort of like was continuing for the last 2 years, so.
Okay, that's fine. And then someone added wellness at the end.
Yeah, because we do have a wellness council, and it meets 4 times a year. I think, Amanda, you were doing it
I
this
did it
past
this year, yeah.
So,
I don't know, that's also something Lisa has expressed,
She
like
has,
really
but-
wanting to bring back in the past.
yeah.
If she wants to, I just feel like bad leaving her up, she's not here, but,
Why don't we put both
Can we,
on?
yeah, we can do that, or we also could just.
She's in the
pause it.
waiting room.
Oh,
She is, okay. Yay.
well, she can vote on.
There we go.
In Youth and Family Services, I'm
love it.
sorry, are you taking it and Sarah's the backup, or do you want Sarah to take it and you'll be the backup?
Sarah could take it, and I can be the backup. That's
Okay.
fine.
This is probably it.
Lisa, sorry about the confusion. Lisa, would you like to be the liaison to the Wellness Council? Give me a thumbs up.
She's still
Yes.
muted. She is muted.
Do we need to unmute her?
you
Nope,
unmute her?
it's not her, it's my computer is muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Problem solved.
All right, and the only one I thought that we didn't have, which I thought could be interesting, it wouldn't be a traditional thing for the schools, but I think given some of the things happening in the community, would be a liaison to the EDC.
To the what?
To the EDC, to the Economic
Economic
Development.
Development Committee.
Since the schools have the largest budget in town,
I nominate Dan.
I was going to volunteer, so
Do you want more than one person? I'll be your backup.
sure,
Okay.
that's great. Okay, so
Do we do diverse Holliston? Sorry.
We
Yep,
did,
Amanda with the backups of Lisa and Sarah.
Okay, thanks.
okay,
and CPAC, we have Lisa. Who do we have a backup for?
Dan.
Dan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we are not doing the safe and supportive company.
Nope, there is no separate.
so I'll take a motion to approve as discussed all the liaisons.
Moved by Amanda?
Second by Dawn.
Okay, we'll take a roll call. Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes,
Dawn,
Yes.
Lisa.
yes, she thumbed up.
Thumbs up. Take that as a yes, and I'm a yes. Glad we could get you in there, Lisa, at the end. Okay. So sorry that took so long, everyone, but
I printed the wrong date.
okay.
Can you just say the liaisons?
Hold on a second.
Consent agenda.
No, I'm just trying to find it. Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. So all items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the items will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So the only thing I'd like to say about this is that while we don't have Keith here today, I do.
He's on Zoom.
Oh, he's on Zoom. Okay. Well, he's not here in person, so I just want to sort of at some point revisit the procedure for how we approve the warrants. That's my only sort of comment that I'd like to make. I'm not going to.
He's visible right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Dan. The Municipal Modernization Act actually allows for a single signer for the bill warrants. And we took advantage of that. Then that was before COVID. Then COVID kicked in, and it reinforced that piece. So it's something that, again, we've taken advantage of, and the chair signs both the payroll warrant and the bill warrant as a single signer for the committee, and then reports out. That's the way that it's done. Matches law precisely. So.
Oh, I'm not at all insinuating that we're not following law. I'm just saying that I just like once I see the warrants for the first time, I'd like to just consider whether we also distribute them to the whole committee or not before we vote on them.
It would be a very heavy. There would be a lot of heavy lifting. Just being honest with you, the next time you come in to sign the warrants, you'll see how many there are, and you may change your mind. So.
And I think you're open to that, right? Because
I'm not wedded. I just want to understand the process a little bit better.
Right.
As much as we would have liked the Finance Committee never signed warrants. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved by Amanda?
Second by Dawn.
Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
I'm yes. Lisa is also a yes.
Do we not discuss the executive session minutes? It's part of the consent agenda, but I feel like we should be explaining that.
Well, it's like a little late,
Okay.
but I'm not opposed
Just
to
for
it. But
transparency's sake, I feel like we should.
Okay. Meaning we have our May 18th regular session minutes and our May 22nd regular session
Yes.
minutes. And then in addition to that, we have our executive session minutes. Do you want to add something in about it and the dates?
Well, I just think that we should be explaining that we've approved them in executive session, and we're releasing those minutes.
Right.
And so,
And the reason why is because if it occurs in executive session, but it's a matter that's still
Ongoing, then we don't
ongoing,
release
then
them.
we don't. But to the extent that we've covered things in executive session, and the matters are no longer ongoing, we
right.
are going to be releasing
right.
them.
So that should have included all of the actual dates of the executive
Okay,
session
let's
minutes?
back up and we can get it in there. Do you happen to have that in front of you?
I do not.
Okay. I'm looking. It's not linked
I
to
expected
the
there was
agenda.
going to be a link that was added,
I
but I
know,
thought that I
that's-
just printed it out, but I'm seeing that there is no link that shows them, and we
Okay.
should.
Can go into the drive and find it.
And I don't know if anything had to be redacted because I don't have them.
No,
present.
it's each, they should have just each been
okay.
separate, and we should have been able to say they were released.
So I have pulled it up. Do you want it?
Do you have the dates?
June 16th, 2022, August 25th, 2022. Then we have September 15th, 2022, October 27th, 2022, November 17th, 2022, December 15th, 2022, January 5th, 2023, January 13th, 2023, January 19th, 2023.
Minnie, can we double check that? Because I think, are some of those regular session minutes and not executive?
No, this is
Purely?
Yeah,
Okay.
exclusively executive session because this is on a separate document. I can share it
We
with
may
you if
want
you
to hold
want.
off on this.
Can we hold off on it? I just.
Okay, so I'll
actually,
take a
it's
motion
already
now to
shared.
reconsider accepting and approving the consent agenda.
Moved by Cynthia.
Second by Dawn.
So I'd like to remove the executive session minutes from, sorry.
No, we just have to
Go ahead,
first
everybody vote.
vote on the
Yep.
reconsideration. And now we can actually, so since Lisa's dropped off, we'll go to sort of a traditional meeting, it's just people in the room. So all in favor of reconsideration? Okay. Or sorry, yeah, reconsideration. I should know that
So
one.
I would like to move that we remove the executive session minutes from the consent agenda because we don't have the details available.
Okay. Does anyone have any,
Second.
so we'll take it Do we need a motion to remove from the consent? Okay. Okay, so we'll take a motion to remove the executive session minutes from the consent agenda. Just all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. That passes. Okay, so now I'll take a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded.
All in favor? Unanimous. Passes. Okay, so we are now 7 minutes ahead of schedule, but we still have a very lengthy meeting ahead of us. Very excited about the list of presenters that we have in front of us. I'm excited to hear from them. I would just ask that we do have quite a lengthy meeting tonight and some stuff afterwards that we need to handle. So, and I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So as you present, if you could just try to hit the highlights, and then we can go from there. But so if the French exchange program, Lisa Eppinger can come forward, that'd be great.
Usually over there.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, since we have some folks on Zoom tonight, I'm just going to move my computer so the Zoom people can see you.
Okay, I guess we'll just start by introducing ourselves, and then Lisa will kick us off. I'm Christy Whipsar, parent of Sarah Buckley, who is a junior.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Eppinger. I'm a 22-year resident of Holliston. I have 3 kids in the Holliston schools, specifically the French immersion program, grades 11, 8, and 5. So I'm here with
Regina Savage.
Yep.
I have 5 children. My last one is Ethan, and he participated in the French exchange program that I'm here to enthusiastically beg you to keep it going. And I've lived here for 25 years, and excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying we think the French immersion program is a wonderful academic and cultural enrichment program for our kids. And we think that it's a source of pride for us in Holliston. It's a differentiation for our schools versus any other town in the area. And we brought some voices because I didn't want you to just hear from one parent or a couple of parents, but the students as well about their experience with this exchange program this year. And we want to express our gratitude really for approving the program and for all of the efforts put in by the school administration, specifically Mr. Trotin, because we know it was an overwhelming amount of work on his behalf to get this thing over the hurdle line to be approved. So just in the next couple minutes, we've got 4 students and maybe a few additional parent comments that we thought it was important for you to hear. And our hope is to leave you with 3 takeaways. First, we think the program was fantastic all around, so hopefully you come away with that as well. It created a positive cultural experience that augmented the French immersion program for our students, but not only for the students, but the families who were hosting. I think it was also for the school, the student body who interacted with the French students who came here, and really the Holliston community overall. The second thing we want you to come away with is the overwhelming feedback that we've received that there's a strong desire for the program to continue. And we hope that you feel that from the comments that you're about to hear. And finally, we want to signal that we are willing to support the continuation of the program. So based on our feedback, we did multiple surveys for both the parents and the students. And so we feel like we could put a playbook together to make this program even stronger in future years. And we would be willing to have many volunteers step forward to help make this program even better and cemented into our community. And so that is what we're willing to do, but we also recognize how much work it was on Mr. Trotin's part on a volunteer basis to do this, and so we're looking for you to signal your support for the program going forward by establishing a stipend for this effort. So with that, I want to turn it over to the students so you can hear from them directly about what their experience was.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about like the language part of the French exchange trip because we were there for a month. So I felt that like overall my language proficiency was something that strongly developed throughout the month, and it it never has before in my entire life in the French immersion program, because the immersive experience was overall like very helpful with developing vocabulary and speaking more fluently. So I felt that it's something that you can't really be taught in school. It can only be really learned through an immersive experience that you can have as a French student who is able to speak French with native French speakers. So yeah, I felt that was very helpful to me in my studies in French now, and will be helpful to me in the future next year when I do AP French.
Yeah, and also the overall cultural experience that not only myself but everybody else experienced, being able to open our eyes to different cultures in different ways that people around the world live. It was truly an incredible experience. Not only because we were able to experience we were able to broaden our horizons in such a way, we were also able to make basically friends for life. I know I'm still in contact with my exchange student, and I know that a lot of other people are still in contact with their exchange students, and even some friends that we made in France, and you were able to develop connections even with some of the other Americans that went along, because we all had a shared cultural experience that really strengthened our idea of the world. So
I'm in a bit of a unique position in terms of going to France, because I did used to live there. But one thing that I had noticed was, as great as the immersion program is, especially for learning the basis of French and how to write in French, the speaking aspect, a French person is just so much more advanced. And I had lost so much of my native French ability. So going to France really, really helped me re-elevate, just as Taylor had said, it helped sort of restart my French. And it's something that, as she said, can't be taught. And even now I find myself catching myself, oh, I can't say that, that's not French properly. And also, I think this is also somewhat specific, but for any student that would be considering an international option for university or college, this really helped me. I'm pretty convinced I would rather go overseas just for the culture as well. And I really think it was very beneficial all around for both my French and just my life in the future.
Yeah, and for me, I think this is one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had, and like them, I learned so much more by going to France than I ever did in a classroom. And I'm probably gonna talk write about this for my college essay, and I'm really excited to continue learning French at an even greater level, when I go to college. Especially somebody interested in international affairs. So this is really an eye-opening experience to be able to live in another country at such a young age. It was amazing. It was the best 4 weeks of my life. I absolutely loved exploring the whole Grenoble area and going to school in a different school system. It was really kind of interesting to see the differences between Holliston schools and French schools. And it's 4 weeks that I will never forget.
Yeah, I agree. It was an amazing experience.
And that was, I think everybody absolutely loved it. All 20 people who went.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Thank you.
The most interesting thing, at least to me, was I thought that travel would be terrible. I thought it would be really, really hard. I thought that going through all the airports and stuff, some of us took 2 flights to get there, then a 3-hour drive and all these different things. It was really, really easy. It was smooth. And the travel, once you were in France, France has an amazing train system, bus system, public transport system in general that made it great for students to get around. I experienced a type of independence I never had before, especially as a younger student who has not been able to drive. It was great.
Yeah, I feel like something that isn't really experienced all around is getting to be exposed to all new types of information and new culture and new ideas that is really, really beneficial to have as a young student, as a young person, so that it can help you grow in the future as an individual overall. And it's something that really can't be traded for something learned at school. It's definitely something you need from experience, and to have that experience is very, very great.
Yeah, I think we would definitely recommend this program to everybody, and we really hope it continues in the future.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I can't top this as the parent, except to say that my son just had so much growth. I heard someone mention growth. He was in France and had to buy his own ticket to get to Lyon, which is 2 hours away, because in France, you're just treated as more like an adult, and he had to navigate Grenoble. But at one particular time, he had to buy his ticket to Lyon, got to Lyon, and there was a protest. And as my daughter Kira, who's been there several times, said, you haven't been in France until you experience a protest. So he just dealt with it, and all by himself, wasn't calling me frantic. It was just he figured out that he had to get a bus ticket, and that's what he did. It was just an incredible experience, not just from his growth and independence and self-responsibility and opening his worldview, but also from what he reported to me at home about how the other students who were not in the French immersion, how they were impacted. In fact, our student became good friends with a person who was not involved in the French immersion. I think I know that the students themselves here at Holliston High School were so excited and so receptive from Ethan's reporting. And also the teachers. Our student got very close to one of the teachers, a few of them, but one in particular, and he gave him a gift at the end. I would say the larger community. My student got a library card. I forgot to mention this at our meeting the other night. And he was going every day to the library and interacting with the staff there. And I know that they were thrilled to have that experience with him. In fact, Chris at the Superette ordered baguettes. So like the whole community was involved. It wasn't just the French immersion children. And I'll just finish off by saying that, our mission is to encourage a global perspective in the world languages. And we had a book club where we had our students and the parents in France with fathers and mothers. It was an incredible experience to be communicating like that, like in Holliston, little Holliston, like having that kind of enriching, just there was so much to learn from each other and talk about and discuss the book. So I'd like to just finish with I hope so much that we can continue, because I know, and just a little aside, Mr. Snyder was at one of our potlucks, and he was very interested in having the French students come and visit. Now, that didn't happen this time around, but I feel like that is something that could happen in the future, that if we do this again, the French students can go to the lower grades and encourage their French as well. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Before we continue, I do think that Dr. Kuska would like to.
I would love to dispel some rumors that I keep hearing, and some people reached out to me directly today. First of all, I'm a huge proponent of bilingual education. I wish my own children had the opportunity to travel, but I did have multiple students come to stay at my house over the years from Taiwan and Japan, and it was an amazing experience for my children. We're still friends with some of them today. I'm often frustrated that the United States does not have everyone do bilingual education, because in other countries it's just a natural expectation that they speak a second language or sometimes a third language, and we don't have that encouragement in the United States, unfortunately. However, at no time have I ever said that I'm looking at any way to get rid of French immersion or Montessori, which is what I'm hearing. These are fabulous programs, and we're such unique offerings to Holliston. It makes us such a wonderful, innovative place. I just want to personally say that has never been in my mindset. These are community offerings that are wonderful to have. So that rumor should be dispelled, at least from my level. I don't know where else it's coming.
I had never heard the rumor.
Okay, but I've been getting it come to me, so I just wanted to reassure people on that. And then as far as the French exchange program, my understanding right now, we had a larger number this year because we haven't had that opportunity in a long time. We had about 22 students, I believe. We believe because of the, we had a larger number this year, there'll be a smaller cohort next year. So I'm actually working with Ms. Bottomley and Ms. Archibald right now. We think we might be able to offer it as an every other year option, just because it's going to be a smaller number, but that would allow students to still have that opportunity while they're in high school. So we have a plan in mind. It will not involve a stipend position. It will allow someone some time in their schedule to have the opportunity to do this work. I don't want to share it all yet because we're still working on the details, but I want you to know that we've been working avidly behind the scenes to make sure that this program moves forward and continues.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Great. Thank you for discussing that and dispelling those rumors. And so, great job. Anything else? Any questions, comments?
I have one. I just wondered if you can share the survey information with us at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm particularly curious about how you managed the 2-week vacation period when our students were over there, because I just wonder how that worked. I think it worked well for some kids, but I'm not sure about it for everybody, so I'd just be curious to hear about that, just in terms of timing.
We distributed 2 parent surveys and 1 student survey, and we'd be happy to share that. We don't have responses from everybody, but we have a majority.
Yeah.
And then we also have a fair amount of feedback from, again, the students and parents on how they handled both the 2-week vacation over there and the difference in school schedules too. So we can provide that information.
It went very well, I'd say.
Yes.
Like that 2-week thing, I was a little nervous myself, but they explored Grenoble, and my son actually got to go to Italy with the family the first week, which was an amazing opportunity too. And then the second week was just explore Grenoble, which the kids probably can't say enough about.
And we have a number of suggestions so that when the next group is ready, a number of the parents have already offered to, offer information sessions or whatever other information to get them prepared. There are certainly things that could be done next time that I think would make the experience even better for the students.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we'll have a contact for you soon that you can work with when the.
That would be great, yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Moving along to Project 351, the library audit. Sally.
Sally, do you want to give them a little reminder about what the Project 351 program is? Are you comfortable with that? Thank you.
So Project 351 is a nonprofit organization.
Do you want to sit down?
I actually have a little introduction, and then I think
great.
she's gonna. Yeah.
Perfect.
Good evening. My name is Kelly McDaniel, and I am the Library Media Specialist at Holliston High and Robert Adams Middle School. Tonight, I can't wait for you to hear from Sally about the project she helped spearhead at RAMS. This is something with the support of the administration at both Robert Adams and Holliston High that has been in discussion for some time. With Sally's passion, input, and effort behind this project, which she will explain shortly, along with some of the other wonderful things she's accomplished as the Project 351 ambassador, we finally have started a library diversity audit at RAMS. Because of her help, we are on our way to improving our library collection to ensure that it continues to reflect our district's vision, as well as continue to build an inclusive school community. The hope is to carry on these efforts next year and also begin a similar project at the high school. Take it away, Sal.
So Project 351 is a nonprofit organization in the state of Massachusetts where one 8th grader from every school in the 351 towns and districts of Massachusetts is nominated by their teachers, guidance counselors, and principal, I think, to represent their town at, it's hard to explain. So I was chosen, very thankfully, and I'm very grateful about it. And this year so far, we have gathered in Boston to meet for the first time, and we spent 3.5 hours at a nonprofit organization called Cradles to Crayons, where we sorted donations for the winter for children and adults in need. And that was a very humbling experience, just to see how much people cared and how much effort is put in to make people's lives better. So another thing that is worked on in Project 351 is every ambassador, is what we're called, does a spring service project. And this is normally a clothing drive for Cradles to Crayons. But because I've been in the Holliston school system since grade 3, I've seen that drives don't really take off very well. And Ms. McDaniels approached me with the idea to do a diversity audit on the library, and I jumped at the idea. And it's been okay so far. People don't understand the task as much as we were hoping they would, but there's definitely, as of today, there was like over 230 responses. And how it works is we go through all the fiction books in our library, we put them in a box, and we send them out to each homeroom. And they will take a book, the students, and they will read the back cover, the inside jacket, skim through it, maybe look it up on Goodreads or Amazon, and fill out a form. And all of the responses go into this spreadsheet that we will use to help take some books out and to get new books, so we can make sure that our library is up to date and has information on all current events and policies.
I think Sally's being quite modest about her input on this project. So in order to get this off the ground, we had to get the whole staff on board. We had to get the students on board. And in order to do that, Sally spoke to the faculty, which is not an easy task. So she spoke to the entire faculty about this idea. She spent time in the library filling boxes of books for 31 homerooms. We created a spreadsheet with all the books that each homeroom is getting, so we are tracking that. She also created the form that the students are using to input the information. She also created email blasts. She's been continuously making morning announcements with progress on the project. So there is no way this would have been kicked off without her help. And although it has maybe in her eyes been a slow start, it's actually going quite well. With her help, we're going to get at least over 500 books by the end of the year through this audit, which may seem small to her, but it's really an amazing thing that she's helping with, and definitely couldn't have done it without her. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's suggested to me that we move up the Celtics playbook as it has some tangential. Is that
Connected to
to the
351.
351? So are you guys okay with moving it up, or would you like to?
Sorry, I keep here.
Oh, I'm sorry. No one's ever accused me of being quiet, but I will try to be louder.
I'm Sarah Kuhn. I'm the Technology Integration Specialist here at the high school, and I am so pleased to present you with two amazing students, Kala Gum and Danielle Portal, who were selected from a team of educators in the high school and administration to represent Holliston High School in a trial which we were accepted in. There were only 6 schools accepted throughout the county for the Celtics playbook. So I'm going to let you guys.
So, like Sally, we are a part of Project 351, and because of COVID, not as many people were chosen as 8th graders, so they wanted to give us the opportunity as well to be a part of this wonderful program. So they created the Celtics playbook, where when we signed up, we really did not know what we were getting into. We just knew that it matched our values, and it would be a way to help improve our community and make Holliston a better place. We attended our first workshop at the Celtics training facility, where we learned that we would be training and hosting workshops with 30 7th and 8th graders, 90 minutes long, where we would talk about discrimination, race, gender equality, and how to better improve our community and the hate throughout Massachusetts. After that workshop, we attended multiple Zoom trainings that were multi-hour, where we learned how to best facilitate these hard conversations and how to be the best support system for these kids. And we were pretty nervous going into the workshops, as we were not educators. We don't have that background, but it was a really great bonding experience with these kids.
And so going off what Kala said, the workshop, we did 2 workshops with around the same group of kids both times. And so they gave us like a schedule that we could follow, and we mostly followed it for the most part. Mm-hmm. One of the activities they really enjoyed, Sally was actually there, but it was agree, disagree, unsure, which is where we stated something that had to do with race or ethnicity or just like orientation within people. And so they would kind of just go to a section whether they agreed, disagreed, or were just unsure with the statement. And they were very good at respecting each other's opinions and just listening to each other without interrupting, and just seeing what everyone had to say, even if they didn't necessarily agree with what they were saying. And so we kind of just did those 2 workshops. It was very eye-opening for both Kala and I, because we created a bond with these kids throughout just these 2 90-minute workshops. And I know we both still keep in touch with some of them. And I know they appreciated what we had to offer, and I know we appreciate what they had to offer and teach us and show us how much of an impact we could make just on them and those small amount of times, and I know we both would love to continue to do this and make sure it's still something that continues next year and even after we graduate next year.
If that's through a club next year, maybe with the 8th graders who will be 9th graders, or having more workshops or meetings, something along the lines to just keep this going.
I would just like to say it was truly amazing watching these 2 young women teach for 90 minutes. And they did have training, but it went off like a veteran educator. There was no downtime. It was consistent, like all the children were engaged, and it was just amazing to be a fly on the wall and watch that amazingness happen. We did want to shout out to Michaela Campbell, who was a Holliston graduate, who led us in the beginning workshop at the Celtics arena. And the first shot, you can see the girls decided to use technology, and then they said for the second one, we just want a bigger space and a stage where we can really get a more intimate feel. So it was like really awesome to see them doing adjustments to practice, like veteran educators. And I told them they should be really careful because you have a definite career path ahead of you. But the students really responded well, and it was really interesting to see the bonds that were made in such a short time. But really awesome leaders.
Can I just add, because thank you, Ms. Kuhn. I actually applied for the district for this opportunity, and I was concerned with only 6 districts getting this opportunity. I do think Michaela helped us being an ambassador and also working now for Project 351, and we're grateful to her. But you stepped right up to the plate and have done a wonderful job supporting Danielle and Carla, and I've had the opportunity to sit in on some of your offerings for the students, and I saw you grow throughout the year. So thank you for your work, and I would love to do anything I can to support it to continue next year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay.
I know she had just one quick little update she wanted to give.
Oh, sorry, yes.
If it comes up.
So I also am the coordinator for the computer science endorsement program at the high school, and this is my second year in the position, and last year we did have 4 graduates, which was really exciting, and this year I'm so pleased to announce we have 12 graduates. We have a really diverse group, and I'm so very pleased with all of them. They are all receiving, well, they actually already received the certificate, and it was just amazing to watch the program grow, and hopefully even next year we'll have more diverse and larger groups of students. Under the guidance of Miss Bottomley, who I think is over there, she urged me to apply for a position with a program called PACE 2 that's run with collaboration of MIT, and Holliston was accepted into the program, so they will have more training. 2 faculty members will be joining me throughout the next 2 years, Mr. Levesque and Miss Taylor, who's the guidance leader. And we are really excited. They will have grants available, training available to make sure that our program is diverse and equitable. So we're really looking forward to that too.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. So moving on to C, the DECA program update.
Hi, so my name is Dianara Castro. I'm a senior here at Holliston High School, and I joined DECA earlier this year, and this was my first year competing. My only regret is that I am a senior, or else I would do DECA for the next 3 years if I could. And I know a lot of our seniors feel the same way. And mostly because we learned so much from the experience. We were able to learn not skills only that we can use in business, but in our everyday lives, and skills that we will take with us as we go on to college, such as interpersonal and communication skills. We got to learn how to collaborate with others. My event was with my partner, Libby, so we kind of learned how to divide and conquer, you know. I did the things that I was good at, she did the things that she was good at during our competition, and in the areas that we struggled, we would come together and collaborate and try to work it through together. And I think an interesting part of DECA is that you learn even when you're not in the competition. for example, when we went to Orlando, I learned how to budget, I learned how to organize. Trust me, rooming with 3 other girls, you need to know how to organize or you're gonna be like swallowed alive by all the stuff you have. And we got to meet so many new people and just learn how to communicate with them, even though they came from all over the country. And I think a misconception with DECA is that you need to know a lot about business in order to be part of it, and that's not true. The only business class that I had taken prior is Intro to Business, and I feel like a lot of my learning came from the actual competition. We got to, the way that it was set up was first, in our case, we did regionals, then states, then the international competition. And we got to learn through our mistakes because we had judges guiding us through all of it, saying what we did good, what we did bad. So we got to adjust accordingly to our errors and do better next time. And it really lets you like think on the spot, because once you're there, all that matters is what's in your head. It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what you've really learned previously. It's what you can do in the moment and how you can take your personal skills and succeed using that. And I think that's very helpful, especially for my life and like my next steps going to college. And I know last year I did not know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to major in, anything like that. And my category was marketing. And now I'm going to be majoring in advertising and public relations. And my partner, Libby, she's going to be majoring in communications. So we're stealing a little piece of DECA with us for our college journey as well. And another thing that I liked was meeting so many new people. I mean, at the international competition, there were 20,000 people there, so it was a lot. And we kind of really just saw how everyone had different experiences, different backgrounds, but we all came together to do something that we were passionate about. And weirdly enough, I think what DECA overall teaches you is how to relax and live in the moment. You might be saying, well, how do you do that? It's a competition, you know, stress is high, things like that. But it teaches you that nothing really matters except what you do in the moment. And if you do bad, it's okay. There's always the next competition. I know there were competitions where me and my partner felt more or less confident in, and we always said, well, we'll approach it differently next time, and things like that. And I mean, I love DECA. It should show you how much I love DECA, considering I'm wearing their jacket in 90 degrees weather. You know, dying over here. But I really just want to say thank you to Miss Lang, Miss Kuhn, Miss Hale, and anyone else who supported us throughout our journeys, and just let us have this amazing experience, because I don't think there's anything else like Holliston High School like this that prepares you not only for what you want to do in the future, but just lets you travel and meet other people who want to succeed in similar aspects as yourself. So thank you for anyone who supported us, who helped us with fundraising, anything like that. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, that's, sorry, so, what's next? Oh, report from the student representatives.
Hello, Mr. Casey.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So I'm excited to introduce our student representatives to the school committee for next year. We're trying a new model by ending the seniors back in May and now bringing the new representatives on board heading this in the spring, so they'll be able to participate right when the school year starts. So we have, for next year, we have 3 incredibly dynamic young people that are very politically active, that want to be a part of decision-making, and are looking for an expanded role here as the student representatives on school committee. So you've met Sarah Buckley already from the French program, Saki Kalkani, and Aditya Gupta. Aditya is also involved in several of the state committees for student advisory, and he's going to continue that through next year. And it's just going to, I think it's going to be an exciting year for what they want to bring to the table. Hopefully, maybe by next meeting, the June 15th meeting, we might know who the new advisor is going to be to replace me. But for now, this is, I guess, my last act as student advisory representative. It's been great to be able to present kids over, it's been about 15 years that I've been doing this, and to be able to present fantastic kids every year to serve on the school committee and to help to be a part of the school community. So you're going to be very, very, very happy with the 3 representatives that we have going forward for next year. And with that, they have some announcements to make about what's going on in Holliston High School.
Of course. So some things going on. We have in-school graduation for seniors this Friday, and corresponding academic awards will be given tomorrow. We will have a senior class trip going on. We have formal graduation this Sunday. The senior step-up day for current juniors is on June 5th, and our robotics club is going through its battle cry competition.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me. So Student Advisory Council has elected its new regional representatives. There's 2 sophomores, Ramya Vempati and Caroline Harris. Prom was May 19th at Granite Links Country Club in Quincy. The freshman class is doing a calendar raffle throughout the month of June. Band and chorus concert is happening this Friday. Class elections are coming up, and Art Saves Lives was a week or 2 weeks ago, and they were able to fundraise and put art out into the community.
Yeah, the Art Saves Live art is like all the stuff you see in the hallway, so it's really fun to have that up in our school right now. Other things that are happening, students have created an anti-hate council with the Director of Racial Justice Initiatives and the Middlesex District Attorney's Office. The next meeting is June 8th. All spring sports have done really well, and they have qualified for their state tournaments. Baseball won the TBLs for the first time in 32 years, and softball won TBLs for the 2nd year in a row. Yeah, those are our updates.
And I'll take a shameless plug that the girls' tennis team made the tournament for the 2nd year in a row. Unfortunately, our season ended today.
I just wanted to say thank you and welcome. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming to talk to us, and we look forward to hearing from you next year. And I also wanted to say thank you so much, Mr. Bernstein, for all of your years bringing students here and everything you've done in Holliston High School. So thank you.
You'll still see him around a little bit, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
And definitely reach out if you have any ideas or anything like that. So, thank you very much.
We'll be in touch.
Great.
Before the school year ends.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along to school committee individual comment.
I have a few things.
Okay.
I just wanted to do a shout out to Mr. Grinna at Rams for the chorus concert that took place last week. He's been, as many of you know, he's been doing double duty as the band and chorus at the Rams this past year, and he's been doing a phenomenal job, and I really appreciate all of his efforts. I'm hoping that he will not have to continue to do double duty in the next year as we search for a replacement for our chorus teacher. I also wanted to say Happy Pride Month, because today is June 1st. And I also wanted to just give a quick shout out to the Holliston Education Foundation. I went to the scholarship award last night, and the community gave our students $170,000 worth of scholarships last night, and it's incredible support that we have in our community, and I just wanted to thank them for that support, and our students, I'm sure, are very grateful, and so am I. So thank you for that.
Briefly, I wanted to thank Rams for again having the 8th grade community service day. That was last Friday, and I guess this evening we've got a lot going on at Miller. They had the grade 5 open house and variety show. I know a couple of you tried to shoot over there before this evening's meeting, and then the Miller band concert is coming up next week on Tuesday, June 6th. The Pops concert is coming up on Friday, June 9th, right there at the football field, 7 to 9, with a rain date of Saturday. And then finally, not to be forgotten, but our Montessori open house. And I wanted to clarify, I thought it was the 7th, but the district calendar says the 14th. Do we know if it's the 7th or the 14th?
There, we have 2 events going on. There's
Okay.
the Montessori Multicultural Night, which is something that
has been going on for many years, and it's great that we're finally back in person with all of that because it's a great night. But we do have something new this year, which is a separate multicultural night that is not specific to Montessori. I think at this point we've got 12 or 15 countries represented, and this is something where families from different countries are coming, and they will have a table with cultural and information and food and stuff like that. They won't be serving food, but they'll be talking about food and music. I think there's a drum performance. It should be a really neat night, and it's a new thing organized by a family in town, and the PTO is kind of helping spread the word, but it's really kind of a grassroots affair, so it should be really exciting. So so there's 2 separate nights.
Anyone else?
I will also put a plug in. There was the pre-K kindergarten carnival today, which is one of the sweetest events, one of my favorite things. So they had a nice day for that, a little warm, but I think that's always fun. And it gets it's a nice way for lots of volunteers to kind of see their kids in action, which is great. And then we have a number of different field days coming up over the next couple of weeks for the elementary grades. So lots of good stuff coming in.
Great. And I just want to add that, to piggyback, that I did go to the 5th grade open house tonight, and it was amazing. So shout out to all the work that the kids did and the teachers and Mr. Kime to put that on. It was wonderful. And then as I was leaving Miller to come here, I drove through town, and the pride flag has been raised at the town hall. So thank you to Diverse Holliston who put on that celebration, and it's a great night for Holliston.
I attended that. It was actually it was a great little event. Yeah. So anyone else? So before we go on, I just want to make a few comments, and I meant to actually do it earlier, but things were getting busy. But I wanted to thank you all for entrusting this position, me with this position. I want to also thank Ken for never relinquishing the chair of the Finance Committee. But anyway, it's really important. One of the things, if you read Robert's Rules of Order, it says that the chair is the servant of the servant of the assembly, not its master. So, this is a collaborative effort. We all need to work together to sort of help move this district forward. I want to thank Dr. Savard for so aptly leading the committee over the last year. She did a phenomenal job, and sort of look to the way that she led the committee as definitely a guide for me. I'm certainly going to be a different chair, but I think she just did a fabulous job. So that's yeah.
So are you done?
Well, no, but if you don't.
No. I just wanted to make sure that I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Next, though, I'd like to address the teachers, paraprofessionals, and other members of the district staff. I'm only going to speak for myself right now, obviously. I want to assure everyone that you are being heard, and that I recognize that there are many areas and issues that we need to work on, and I'd like to do that together. While the committee is currently considering a lot of next steps, I want to reiterate that we're not going to ignore you. Certainly, I'm not going to. But going forward, we need to find ways to lower the temperature. We need to work together to get through the issues and get to the other side, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to educate our kids, right? Like that's the main goal. And I know we're all here because we care about the kids. And I think we all need to remember that everyone is here to care about the kids. This is not, everyone is on the same page as far as that goes. We may disagree on how we get there, but we all have good intentions at heart. So let's go forward thinking that, positive intentions of everyone who is participating in this entire process. We have an incredible group of teachers and staff in the district. They care so much about educating our students. We also have an extremely dedicated group of building and central office administrators that also care about educating our students and helping educate our students. So, again, as I said, while we're not going to always see eye to eye, we need to go on from here, ensuring that we always treat each other with grace, understanding, and respect that we all deserve. We have a tough road ahead. Many incredibly important decisions are going to need to be made over the next year and forward from there. And I wanted to be able to do that collaboratively. My door email inbox is always open. If you have issues, please reach out. The school committee only has so much of a role, but I'm always happy to make sure that to connect you to the right person. I'm sure most of the other members of the school committee would be willing to do the same as well. Finally, to the parents and other community members, the same is true for you. If you have issues, please reach out to us, or certainly to me, again, speaking only to myself. This is a really incredibly important time in our district, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to move the district forward in a positive and successful path. So, thank you. And now, Minnie, yes.
I just want to take this opportunity to welcome Dan and Sarah to the committee. It's your first meeting, and I hope that all of us can actually work through the incredibly difficult times that we have coming out of COVID and going into normal routine. It's been difficult for everyone, everywhere. And I think a lot of the issues that we face today is probably directly relevant to what we have already faced. I also want to welcome our new chair, Dan, and Dawn, and looking forward to work with you guys.
Great, thank you, Minnie. Anybody else on the school committee? Okay, so next up, we are going to move on to public comment. We have 2 people who are registered for public comment, and so we'll go through them. So first is Pooja. If you could just state your name, address. I'm not going to put an official time limit on this because we only have 2, but 5 minutes or so of motions.
Our timer is 15 minutes per policy.
Well, that's the total.
I know.
Thanks. My name is Pooja Pal. I'm a resident of Holliston for 6 years now. I have a 3rd grade student in French immersion program. Address? Oh, sorry. My address is 105 Overlook Drive, Holliston. That being said, I'm here to, just share my thoughts here today. We relocated to Holliston, attracted by the renowned French immersion program, despite not being a French-speaking family. We believed that exposing our child to a bilingual curriculum would provide additional development benefits. To prepare, we enrolled our daughter in a Montessori preschool that included French in its curriculum. Although we had to endure the arduous lottery process, we were fortunate to secure the enrollment in the French immersion program for our daughter. However, our current concern stems from the recent changes that have been implemented. Specifically, we have become aware that K-12 curriculum for Unified Arts, Fine Arts, and French immersion have been combined under the supervision of a single individual. Will they continue to receive the same level of rigor and the diverse range of subjects? Additionally, we are troubled by the news of de-leveling of the curriculum in the areas of science and math at the middle school level. This decision has prompted us to contemplate the potential consequences it may have on our children's future, educational opportunities, and career prospects. Coming from a background where educational equity was unheard of, we took it upon ourselves to educate about the concept and benefit it offers. While we genuinely appreciate and wholeheartedly support the core principles of equity in education, we believe that utilizing equity as a means to reduce education levels is an overreach that hampers our children's potential. We have unwavering confidence in the intelligence of our Holliston students to excel academically and embark on fulfilling professional careers. However, the restriction on advanced science and math courses during middle school prevents them from exploring various educational avenues. We currently stand on the brink of the next technological revolution, and the next 2 decades will be defined by our proficiency in these fields. By de-leveling advanced maths and science curriculum, we hinder our children from developing the aptitude necessary for advanced placement and admission into reputable universities. This is our foremost concern. We're not even granting them the opportunity to attempt advanced coursework and then decide if they can handle the academic rigor. The question arises, how can we collectively provide our children with all available tools while upholding the principles of equity? We believe it is possible to strike a balance that allows for equal educational opportunities while still providing avenues for academic exploration and advancement. It is crucial to find innovative solutions that ensure all students have access to quality education, without impeding the progress of those who are academically inclined. We urge the community to come together and seek ways to implement policies that promote equity while also catering to the diverse needs and aspirations of our students. By fostering an environment that encourages intellectual growth and supports individual development, we can prepare our children for success in an increasingly competitive and technology-driven world. It is through this collaborative effort that we can equip our children with the necessary skills and knowledge to shape their futures and contribute meaningfully to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Second is Nicole.
I know you can't talk tonight. I was so comfortable last time. I wanted to come back again. Thank you for having me back. All right, so it's twofold. Hello, and thank you for welcoming me back. I'm Nicole Dickinson. My family and I have resided at 1102 Highland Street since 2003. We have 3 children, a son who is attending 9th grade at School Choice in Ashland, a daughter in 7th grade, and a son in 2nd grade. I'm here this evening to introduce HPS Raise, a group that formed a little over a week ago as a means of uniting Holliston people who share a feeling of care, curiosity, and concern over the state of our school district. We are comprised of Holliston residents and business owners, parents, guardians, and students. As our name suggests, we seek to be the common point from which light streams across and throughout our school district. To be that objective entity who rises to support our school committee, administration, teachers, and staff, all in the vested interest in doing best by our students, our world's future generations. Our mission is grounded by our belief in a whole partnership to accomplish extraordinary outcomes in equity for all across HPS. We are an action-based group who are invested in our schools, its people, and our community as a whole. We maintain and uphold that our character is everything to our success: inclusive, intelligent, confident, communicative, supportive, positive, non-judgmental, caring, candid, honest, transparent, encouraging, open-minded, forward-leaning, innovative, respectful, ethical, focused, steadfast, resourceful, and most of all, factual. We are focused on supporting, again, students, teachers, staff, and administration, and you, the school committee. We provide knowledge sharing and a backing from a group of like-minded, invested people. Since its Facebook group formation on May 21st, 2023, HPS Raise is 356 members and growing strong, and we have hosted 2 90-minute Zoom meetings where all are welcome to attend to listen, share, and discuss items of concern, thoughts on how to offer collective support, and any other items that can lead us all to actively contribute to HPS. And we've had some of you attend, so you're aware. We believe we have identified a gap where our contributions and partnership with all can help us return to the progressive, highly regarded district we once maintained. We know our commitment will not come without an investment of our time, minds, and hearts, but we all feel that all of you in front of us tonight and within the doors of our buildings are worth our efforts. It is our hope that you will welcome us and allow us the honor to link arms with you and move forward in a positive, productive direction. From all of us at HPS Raise, thank you, and shine on 01746. Okay. So it much echoes what you were saying, Dan.
Yep.
And it really did come from a place of good of like a lot of people just were kind of saying the same things. I had an experience. And then we met as a group and we said it's time to formalize. There's a lot of like onesie twosies, this one, that one. I'm sure your inboxes reflect that. But we're all kind of saying the same thing, so why not alleviate some of the pressure in your inboxes? Us come together, we can have, small groups that break off, that can then kind of address certain things that are of interest to the group, and hopefully it just makes it a little bit more palatable for people to get involved. I know I've been a holdout of getting involved because it's just overwhelming with everything else we have going on. but we can't just sit back. It's just, I think we all just need to, again, come together. So hopefully you'll see us as that middle point between it all, and you can reach out to us for barometer checks about what the community might be saying. So we can brainstorm different ways, and happy to talk further, but just wanted to make sure that we introduced ourselves tonight.
Great, thanks. Yeah, no, normally we don't comment, but I'll just simply say, and I don't want to get into a discussion about this, but having involved parents is critical. I know that there's always shortages of people volunteering for PTO events, people coming into the classrooms to help with teachers. So the more parents, caregivers, that we have involved, the better. One of the things that you did put in your letter is some sort of community forum, and I know that I think that there's been discussions of that bandied about, and I think that that's a great idea. I don't know if it's going to be possible before the end of the year. It's quite busy, as you've heard, so, but it's certainly something that I think we should strive to do to get everyone onto the same page, so thank you.
Yeah, and that's part 2, sorry.
Okay.
Part 2 to my act here. No, we were going to have someone else read it, and so I got back to my session. So can I is it okay if I duly comment?
Do you want to read are you going to read the whole letter, or do you want to just read?
I'm going to read it for recording purposes.
Okay.
It's up to you. What's your preference?
I mean, if you just want to hit the highlights, then we can sort of, enter it into the record. I think that would probably be best too, yeah.
Just so the highlight is a letter was drafted. It's posted on our Facebook page. You can access it there at HPS Raise. And as a result of posting that letter, we posted it with Google Form to get signatures of support. And again, that was also helpful to you, hopefully to gauge kind of interest and support on the nature of this letter. And so there are 79 signees as of 6:45 this evening when it was printed. So we have that as well, the signees across Holliston and the support of what that letter has documented. Do you have a means of also posting the letter for those watching on tonight that may not be members of our group?
I would simply just say that if those who are interested in the letter should go to your Facebook group. I don't think that we're going to be able to post letters like that on the HPS website, but
not everyone's on Facebook.
Yeah, that's a problem. I feel like if you're going to open up to comment, if someone else wants to take it to read it.
All right, go ahead. Take 2 minutes and go ahead and read it.
Okay. So, dear members of the Holliston School Committee, we, the undersigned residents of Holliston, write today to express our collective concern over the state of the Holliston Public Schools. A review of the HSC's evaluation of Superintendent Dr. Susan Kuska, coupled with the published HFT vote of no confidence by our Holliston educators and Dr. Kuska, find that our district is in an environment that is not conducive to learning for our children. We implore the Holliston School Committee to act to improve the educational experience for all of our children and educators. The Holliston School Committee, by its own enumeration of its powers and duties, takes a broad view of its functions and has all power conferred upon it by state law. The Massachusetts Department of Education identifies the school board as one that must be responsive to the community it serves. HPS Raise is an action-based community group of Holliston residents, parents, and guardians who are invested in our schools. We are focused on knowledge sharing to support our teachers, administrators, and the HSC in its current desire to find the common ground necessary to safely support our students. By its own admission, the HSC has identified that Dr. Kuska is not always readily transparent or open to feedback. Over her tenure, the HSC noted a gradual breakdown of productive relationships among teachers and the administration. This is confirmed by the HFT vote of no confidence. As time is of the essence, we ask that the HSC host an educational forum to include Holliston residents, parents, and guardians, along with an agreed-upon representation by teachers and administrators by June 21st, 2023. The goal of this educational forum would be positive culture change by allowing for open dialogue without intimidation or fear of retaliation. As we strive to retain our current educators and hope to attract others, it is incumbent upon the HSC to act now to showcase that our district is one where harmonious and productive relationships flourish, two-way communication is valued, teamwork is essential, and extraordinary outcomes and equity for everyone within HPS is available and supported in full. Parallel to this community effort, we ask that the HSC engage a third party to independently explore the years-long circumstances that precipitated the HFT vote of no confidence.
as HSE members opined on their individual observations of the relationship between union leadership and the superintendent in its formal review of Dr. Kuska, we feel an independent party is necessary to successfully identify our path forward. For educators to take the extraordinary measure to communicate with the public at large that the trust in our buildings is broken, it must be the HSE's goal to take all actions within their elected power to repair the culture. We look forward to increased communication from your body at the next HSE meeting on June 1st, 2023. Thank you for your time and consideration of this urgent matter. Respectfully and with great concern, HPS Rays.
Great, thank you.
So if you guys would like copies of anything that I stated, please let me know.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public comment section and move on to presentations with end-of-year goals with Dr. Kuska and the principals. Band too.
You can come up here, Dr. Jordan and Dr. Slaney, Mr. Kime, and Ms. Bottomley.
Who's going first?
I think we have actually Mr. Jordan after me.
All right.
Followed by Dr. Slaney.
Nice. Camera gets good. I get to go just like they said.
We would love to.
Just
do we
put
want
it like
put it right there.
where it can see you a little bit.
Okay, so as you know, we've kind of revamped our goals process over the last couple of years, and the district and school improvement plans that we presented earlier in the fall are directly aligned to our 4 arches, our 5-year strategic plan, and all the initiatives in there as well. So you'll see the theme go throughout this, and you'll see some repetition because of that, because we're really aligning all the work that we're doing together. So we did present mid-year as well, our progress towards our goals and initiatives, and this is our end-of-the-year progress thus far. Just a reminder of our mission and vision. Our vision that we love because it's very short, sweet, to the point. Embark on your journey, personal, local, and global, with our 4 arches: communication practices, social and emotional well-being, teaching and learning, and talent and resources. So under Arch 1, at the district level, which is going to be shared out through all of the schools as well, under communication practices, we've been really working to improve communication, trying to use social media as our platform, Twitter. We're using, the website's been revamped. You'll see a lot of work there. We talked about it mid-year. We've done more progress on that as well. We now have a staff member designated to work on staff website directories. We're trying to get photos of every staff member on there because we really want to show our students before they enter a certain grade to be able to see who they're going to have, and for parents to kind of recognize that. Particularly during COVID, I found with masks on, I'm still having trouble trying to remember everybody's name, and it's a work in progress, but having them on the website will be helpful. We're also looking at our external websites and trying to migrate those over. A lot of staff created different websites, and that was wonderful, but in order to try to get all of our students with different languages to be able to access our information, we really need it all in one place, because then it can be translated from our final site as well. We're using Bright Arrow frequently. We communicate by SMORE, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You'll see that when we communicate through SMORE, it goes through Bright Arrow, and then that's translatable as well. We're working to identify and implement another 2-way communication system between staff, students, and families. We talked a lot about the work with curriculum. I know Joni's presented with the team before, and we'll be presenting at the end of the year at the June 15th meeting as well about our progress on the Stage 1 documents. There's going to be a curriculum night on Monday at 7 p.m. via Zoom, correct? Yeah. And we also are working, we just transitioned a new person as our central registrar / assistant, office assistant, and greeter. And that person, Kimberly Sexton, is working to help onboard new families when they enter after the beginning of the school year. Additionally, we had 22 people participate in cybersecurity training, which we know is critical. We see constant things trying to get into our website and through our emails, and we don't want to let these things in, so we're working on that. And we just found out recently that we're going to have a Sandy Hook anonymous reporting system. We've been waiting, I think, a full year. It's a nonprofit. Obviously, the horrible incident that happened in Sandy Hook has led to this nonprofit being developed. It's going to be a system where we can use any bullying incidents or potential incidents of safety incidents outside of school or inside of school can be reported anonymously there. And there are people that are housing that and looking at it 24 hours a day. If it was an emergency on the weekend or after school, they'd be able to find a stakeholder such as myself or one of the principals and reach out, and then we could initiate support from potentially our Holliston Youth and Family Services or our SROs to go out and check on wellness of individuals if it was outside of school.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there any way we can be projecting through Zoom?
I'm sorry.
Let me.
Right. Let me just share my screen. Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes. Let me just share.
Yes, I was forgetting that.
She was on there.
I was trying to use mine to do it, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm not the one.
Are we doing it on HCAT as well?
Once it's on here.
Right, they'll get it now.
Okay. Okay, it's not great when we don't have separate equipment, and we were hoping to get that activated for tonight, but it's not available tonight. All right.
May I just ask, the Sandy Hook Anonymous Reporting System, I thought we had something like that in place at Rams, and maybe this is a David Jordan question. Do we have something like that in place at some of the schools, but now it's one program and with enhanced benefits? Like, how is it different? And does that mean we'll still have the programs we have at the school? I think, like, it's almost like an anonymous bullying reporting system.
Yeah, we have an anonymous incident report that we all maintain. I can speak for myself. I just
So is this an addition, or is it more of a?
I think we're hoping that this will replace that, but we just got communicated that we're going to be able to move forward with it, so I don't have all the information yet, and they haven't even seen it yet because it's literally just happened. But it's been a year in the waiting to see if they would let us be part of this program because it's a very busy nonprofit, and they can't keep up with the volume of need there. So we'll get back to you on just how it's going to integrate with all of that and little clinics.
Okay, and is that something we tell our students about them too, so they know where to access this, whether it's on the website or?
Yeah, once it's all set to go, we'll be going at the beginning of the school year. We'll train staff on how to use it. We'll get it out on the website. We'll have links to it everywhere. We'll put it in newsletters and everywhere possible, like we do with Care Solace, which is another anonymous place you can get information and support for mental wellness. All right, under Arch 2, I'm going to get rid of this. Social and emotional well-being. Some of the action steps related to SEL and safe and supportive schools. I'm not going to go through all of this because we're going to have Mr. Vernet is going to be presenting with Ms. Beatty at our June 15th meeting, and they're going to go in much more detail. But you'll see we've done a ton of work this year with trauma-sensitive graduate courses and PD. We've had cognitive behavioral techniques for student support professionals, psychological first aid, responding to crisis, culturally responsive student, working with culturally responsive teaching. The teachers have been trained in multiple schools that they may talk to that as well. Ongoing, we're continuing to build our Tier 1 SEL curriculum, K-8. We're hoping to launch this summer and have the materials and resources in place the following year. We have 3 schools that have been doing PBIS academies, which is also part of our Tier 1 intervention program. The high schools participated in year 1 of 3 years in another DESE academy called Social Emotional Behavioral Academy. 4 schools have used the climate and culture surveys that have been developed, and they're taking that data and looking at stakeholders' information and trying to determine next steps from that. The Sandy Hook reporting system will help us with that say something and getting information out, especially anonymously. We hope that will help us maybe be proactive versus reactive to situations. And the Culturally Responsive Education Academy is continuing as a 3-year program. I talked about communication as well, but that also applies to social emotional well-being. And we're doing a ton of data collection related to the continuums. Ms. Beatty's been working with her SSAs at all 4 buildings to really see about how we align those pre-K to 12 plus. So again, she'll be communicating on that on June 15th, and you can have any questions for that night as well. Okay, under Arch 3, the key steps there, we talked about already on the website, but we've got the curriculum documents thanks to our curriculum team. They've got the stage 1 documents up and running on the website. UB teachers.
And the teachers
want-
for working on it.
You want to speak?
No,
to
no,
this?
no, no, no,
We
go right
probably
ahead.
did.
But I know I'd also like to thank the teachers for doing the work also. So.
The teachers, the curriculum coordinators, and Joni work directly with each school and grade level leaders, department leaders, team leaders, and PLCs. UBD training is continues happening in the curriculum meetings. Mill is still working on the CRT, culturally responsive teaching. We are finalizing our equity audit, so we'll hopefully have some updates. We probably won't have it ready to share out for the June 15th meeting, but hopefully for the August meeting, we'll be able to have the equity audit team come in and present that information to you and share the results of that. The pre-K to 12 math curriculum review is in place. Secondary ELA curriculum review is currently taking place. We're working on finalizing our PD plan for 23-24. There's a ton of work to do still on that, but we'll have dates out for that hopefully by the end of the year or into the summer. We're training a lot of our staff at Placentino and Miller and Orton Gillingham, and we're also bringing in some additional Orton Gillingham tutors, I think, at Miller, correct? Miller has completed landmark outreach to build language-based programs. The tech integration team participated in education events to better learn to integrate AI. We all know there's a lot of controversy with AI right now. Our tech team is trying to get ahead of that and be proactive using AI because there's a lot of good things. So I think the good will outweigh the negative impacts, but there's still a lot to be learned about how to integrate it into the schools. RAMS is working on their vision of a graduate in conjunction with the high school work that's been taking place. And we're still collecting data collection tools and looking for a data dashboard to we're trying to roll out next year as well. Under Arch 4, Talent and Resources, we're continuing to refine our orientation and mentoring programs. Each year we try to improve on that because that's the first onboarding opportunity for our new teachers, paras, and some of our administrators as well. We did submit the statement of interest for the high school. Hopefully that will be approved this year. We did add some additional information to try to really highlight some of the needs of the high school. The needs continue to rise, and we added some more categories to that. Again, hopeful that we'll hear good news this year. We're continuing to make sure that the organizational chart with some of our new positions has been implemented and that everybody understands what those positions will do. This year, we had the opportunity since COVID to return to learning walkthroughs as a district with just the administration team. And next year, we hope to not only do the full administrative team, but also add some teacher leaders and some other people that would like to attend those walkthroughs with us. I already mentioned the climate and culture surveys. They took place in grades 3 to 12, and there'll be some summer work to follow. Miller School is working on the data dialogue model to enhance their practices there, and I know you're going to be talking about that as well. And the PD Council is taking the survey data from all of the PD that we've had this year, and they'll continue to use that to plan for next year.
Can I just ask a little bit more about the climate and culture surveys?
Sure.
Who was included in that, and is that information shared out to the community, and if so, when?
Who wants to talk about that?
Are you going to address that later?
Do you want to wait till the
Okay, you don't want to take our thunder away yet.
Sorry.
Okay.
How about the new learning walkthroughs? Can you just explain a little bit about what a learning walkthrough is?
Sure. The full administrative team, I want to say in January-ish, we met as a full team and we looked through some of the previous practices we did and tried to take some templates and created all new templates as an administrative team. And we were able to attend one at each building this year. We were trying to get in a second one, but time crunch did not allow it. So we're hoping to get at least 2 in each building next year. But again, maybe the first half of the year with our administrative team, and hopefully the second half of the year to add some teacher leaders as well that are interested.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're going to start with the middle school. We're going completely out of chronological order.
Keep us on our toes.
You know what? I'm historically the middle child, so I never get to go first. So. Well, I know. See, and you've got to be older than younger here that just make fun of me. All right, so to get us started, we're talking about Arch 1, our communication practices. Overarchingly, I would look at our communication this year very centered on our Tier 2 focus. Specifically, we have ramped our acceptable use practices and policies, specifically within Securely, which is a software that helps us sort through some of the searches. And there are many of our families who receive calls in the middle of the night from an administrator letting them know that there are some suicidal ideation and some inappropriate searches that are occurring on school-based technology. That has also led into our second tool, which is Care Solace, and connecting families to resources, external resources. One of the hardest things to do I think as a parent on your own is seeking mental health services. It is a challenge, and I believe strongly in what our counselors have been able to do as far as utilizing Care Solace to connect families to mental health services. We have, or we will be on June 7th, we have our instructional leadership team. Historically, starting in March, in the March PD Day, we have used that as an opportunity to start to collect staff data and all of our other data sources, and then begin kind of our conversation process about how do we process that information. So this is kind of the bullet on sharing data with key stakeholders and team leaders to determine actionable next steps. So this is processing all of the information from the school year, including the goals and the progress that we've made, identify subgroups for the summer and next year for making adjustments to practice for the next school year based off of that. That is June 7th, and we will have parent representatives, Mr. Alfred and Mrs. Fitzgerald are participating as parents as well in that. Additionally, sorry if I skipped ahead, within kind of communicating our story, we've created a Instagram account that has 341 followers, and we've been sharing photos over the course of this year to families based on some of the events that have occurred at the middle school, and it's been nice to see as far as being able to share that positive message that occurs that oftentimes it's hard to really get that out as much. Additionally, kind of leveraging SMORE, which is providing us a different way for us to communicate our biweekly news, so our newsletter, and what that looks like to kind of just bring life to the newsletter there. All right, I can move on to the next arch.
It's not me, it's the computer. It's like,
this computer?
Mine.
No, it's yours. It's not Nancy.
So we are in year 2 implementation of PBIS. We started off with a strong start. I would say that we are exploring a reboot for the start of next school year. Partially is that we've had a lot of turnover in the initial team that we've had and in our counseling staff. With that, some loss of some historical knowledge within our counseling staff, but also those that were kind of the designers of our PBIS process. So that's kind of requires some adjustment that we are needing to look at as well. Similarly, expansion of our Tier 1 SEL lessons. This year we have 4 counselor positions. We had 5 different counselors this school year, so we cycled through a bunch this school year for sure. Within our year 2 of ARPA-funded intervention groups, we have definitely continued that with the guidance of Brooke Dory as far as establishing 6-week cycles for our academic intervention groups. And similarly, her managing our SO groups. Somebody who's been able to assist with that process has been Wendy Lucier and several of our paraprofessionals who have served as teachers or instructors of those SO groups, which are our social emotional working groups, and our intervention groups, which are our academic groups. We are within our safe and supportive school lessons. We had a summer work group that established kind of revamped what those lessons were. Within the first 2 lessons, we collected student feedback, and they didn't like the lessons that we had crafted. So our peer leadership group, who is managed by Sarah Peters, took on the initiative of being student-led and student-created safe and supportive school lessons. And the last 3 that we had were created by students, led by students, and they were received a lot better by students. Wonder why. They were authentic, relevant to the experiences of our RAM students, and I think that that's an adjustment to practice in the middle of the year that we will continue with going forward. Additionally, as far as restorative justice initiatives, we have partnered with Navigate 360, which is a social justice program. It is hard in the moment of disciplinary issues to establish like a 6-week restorative practice for a student who may be involved in a disciplinary violation. Navigate 360 is a program that allows us to kind of things that they have already created for us to kind of utilize that as a restorative justice program. Additionally, we are within our social emotional learning groups, we're looking at kind of like a wellness 2 mindset and viewing this as kind of like our tier 2 process and re-envisioning what that will look like for next school year. All right, with March 3.
David, before you move off, or actually Dr. Jordan, congratulations.
I go by David.
Okay. Can I ask about, well, first off, I want to know the student-led classes. What topics did they pick, and just tell me a little bit more about that. And then also Navigate 360 and the restorative justice. Could you just kind of explain that to us?
Yeah, so our student-led safe and supportive lessons were on our LGBTQIA communities and leading into our Pride Month. And then they also recently finished a few weeks ago, ableism, and created a lesson for that. So those are the 2 that they're focusing on for this year. Mrs. Peters has applied to summer work through Mr. Vernay to work with students. So part of her summer work is to actually bring in her as the teacher and then the group of peer leaders to create and craft lessons over the summer for implementation on day 1 when we start the next school year. The Navigate 360 has a series of videos and assignments and restorative practices that students need to kind of engage in, and is self-driven and tracks their progress and also how they respond to like situations. So if a student, for example, were to like our past experiences where we've had a student that we've identified as written the N-word in the bathroom, we have, along with school-based consequences, assigned restorative practices that they need to engage in. These could be multiple hours of modules that they have to engage in, reflective essays that they need to write, and then services that they need to complete. And that tracks that so that we're able to, at the end of that duration, say whether they've completed that process or not. If they don't, that can lead to future consequences as well. Navigate 360 also has on a more tier 1 and tier 2 level, so smaller types of modules, everyday violations, I would say, and how do you kind of teach kindness and care as well. That has some capacity within it as well. But we're currently using it at a tier 3 level.
Thank you very much.
Additionally, we have completed our culture and climate survey. We have a past practice of kind of analyzing that data. We, part of our June 7th, including parents and students that will be participants in it. We will share that data at that space. It will be just kind of a high-level presentation at that point, but the goal of that group that meets on June 7th is to create who is the kind of culture team and group to have a deeper look during the summer and identify what adjustments to practice we should make based off of that data. Within Arch 3, and I'll speed through a few of these because I don't want to repeat what Dr. Menard had indicated, but We have identified some common classroom expectations that we had worked with our consultant in Basecamp. So common instructional practices, things that should be on the board, things we would expect from teachers. That has been in implementation this school year. We had created professional development based off of our writing and our writing rubric and our literacy initiative that we have been utilizing. Additionally, we have continued with STAR math and reading assessments. Our year one implementation of our common writing rubric has been across all subjects in our school. We are going to make some adjustments based off of the feedback from teachers on how that's gone specifically to make it more subject specific, and the complexity of the language that's in the actual rubric and identifying what does that actually look like in that subject, and looking at pulling some exemplars there for year two. Additionally, down below, collecting feedback from students and families, teachers on the implementation impact of possible adjustments to the new schedule. We are, part of our June 7th group is to kind of also look at that as well, but we did collect feedback from teachers and students on our schedule and have made some adjustments to our schedule for next school year. And then additionally, identify big idea professional development topics. This will be a function of our instructional leadership team that meets on June 7th. Lastly, we do have new literature in 6th and 7th grade with diverse audit. We went through an audit process to incorporate and bring in and update the literature that we expect from 6th graders and 7th graders to incorporate that more diverse authors and protagonists, and have made some purchases based off of that. Part of that being grant funded by HEF, which was great that our 6th grade teachers applied for as well.
So, David, before we go on, I don't want to put you on the spot, and if you want to sort of talk about this later, we can do that. But there are obviously a lot of sort of things swirling around as far as the leveling of math. I'm sure you knew where I was going. If you want to just address that now, I don't know, maybe I missed it at another meeting, or just any information you can put out there now about sort of your thoughts, where things are going, if it's being worked on, just whatever. Yeah. So we. Leveling, or kind of where the direction that we've been moving in with leveling started about 2007 and ended with the ELA curriculum review in 2010, which was the removal of ELA levels at the middle school. That then led to the science curriculum review, and at the science curriculum review that ended, I think, in 2015, that was the recommendation to move away from IPS in 2015, partially because it was not teaching the Massachusetts state frameworks. The recommendation wasn't to necessarily eliminate honors science, but we, in 2021, based on the 2015 recommendation, moved to honors science to teach the Massachusetts frameworks for that level. There isn't an intention to remove honors science, but that it was to teach the Massachusetts state frameworks at the 8th grade level. The math conversation started with Sarah Hearn back in 2015, and then we began meeting with the high school. The first high school leveling meeting began in 2016, and then that kind of went through different meetings over 2018. Future of Math, which is part of Portrait of a Graduate under Dr. Jackson, and then we more recently, not to go through kind of the history from 18, 19, 20 on, is in 2019, there was the first Math Parent Night, which was presented to all parents in the community. I think we had over 100 parents that were there at that meeting. Similarly, at the same time, we presented to school committee, and then I had kind of 2-on-2s between myself, school committee members, and Alicia Molter, who at that time was the curriculum head at that point. We had mapped out or created with the high school a pathway, a multi-year pathway starting with 6th grade. Started with 6th grade that moved standards from
from 8th grade, a few standards from 8th grade into 7th grade, and then 7th grade standards into 6th grade, and then that was a 3-year process. We got about 1 year into that with our 6th graders, and then we hit COVID. I would say where we are currently right now is we haven't shifted those standards based off of that internal curriculum review that we had completed back in 2019. But that's kind of where we are. But it was a 3-year. It was supposed to be a 3-year process, starting with our 6th grade, and then in 2023, leading to our 8th graders. At the end of 7th grade, all students having the ability to move into algebra and it be full algebra. I recognize that right now, as a result of COVID, we're in a place that we're teaching more of what was historically in the past in 8th grade accelerated, which is preparing students for part A. Part A of algebra is what they would take in their 8th grade year, and then they take the B part their first semester or their freshman year. But the process, the outcome is to, if COVID hadn't interfered with that, is to have a completed algebra course at the end of 8th grade, and that was the process that was communicated to the school committee.
So A and B would be in the 8th grade.
Correct. Yeah.
So now we're currently in a curriculum review. Those are all being revisited right now. And so there will be parent information evenings and forums and feedback next year. But we have started the math curriculum review this year. There will be no further changes for next year. We are looking at different items to pilot at both the elementary school level and secondary level for next year.
So the classes and curriculum from this year will be the same next year?
Except we will be piloting some new resources, yes.
Well, I mean in general,
yes,
they'll be the same. Okay, thank you. That's great.
All right, on to Arch 4. Arch 4, this is our talent and resources. We partnered with Indy Basecamp and looked at kind of an audit of our structures and processes at the middle school and how we're providing or how we're disseminating information within our schools so that our teachers feel they know where to go for things and when they're struggling with particular student needs, whether it's disciplinary, social emotionally, or academically, those processes are very clear to them. This has also included kind of some adjustments, some projected adjustments to the employee handbook and the student handbook as well that we may be presenting at a later point in time to the school committee. The identify each position and categorize. We've been working within our team leaders to create a flow chart for our entire school based off of like our identified leadership that exists and what their roles are and what you go to for them. And additionally, again, June 7th is the start of our analysis of our year's worth of data to identify what the professional development needs, goal needs, and adjustments to practice need to be for the 23-24 school year. Oh, also something fun. Sorry, no, it's fine. Monday memo and Thursday throwdown. Thank you to Mr. Conant for bringing Thursday throwdown. He needed his little spin on it, but this is a teaching and learning and teacher-focused communication. The Monday memo comes from me, which is more like the nuts and bolts and the like have-tos. Thursday throwdown is acknowledgments of some of the great things that our teachers are doing inside the building, but also resources to help support teaching and learning for our teachers.
Thank you. Going next to Dr.
Well, I know they were having questions for Dr.
Okay.
So are there any
questions? Sorry.
Hold on.
All right. Hi, everyone. I was saying to Mrs. Bottomley, I don't feel very confident going after those high school students. I definitely know I was not that well spoken in high school, and I'm still questioning myself a little bit. So under Arch 1, communication practices, something that we've been really thinking about is how do we give a look into our school so that our families are able to see the amazing things that are happening within our walls. And something that we've adopted is called Seesaw, and Seesaw is a digital learning portfolio that's used in all of our classrooms. And we're really working to help teachers use it as a tool for students to use it as a reflective tool so that they can actually, there's video components, the kids kind of videotape, I just aged myself, record themselves and are able to reflect upon their reading, their speaking, some of their different presentations. So that's something that we've been really working on and thinking about how we can have more uniformity across our schools. So that's something that we're going to continue to work on next year. We did survey our parents on the preferred social media platform. We only had 86 families respond. Our survey response data has been a little bit low this year. I just don't know if parents are kind of surveyed out. But it was overwhelmingly Facebook. So we'll be launching Facebook in the fall. And we'll be keeping Instagram, which is their second choice, and we'll post on both. And thanks for bringing up the pre-KK carnival, which prompted me to just post on Instagram. So if you want to see some of those awesome pictures, please go ahead. The other thing that we looked at was, what is our registration process? What does it feel like for our families? So do they think do they come with ease? Are they able to hear about it? Are their questions answered? So again, I sent out surveys and I had 7 responses, which isn't really a big enough data pool, but they're all positive. But I think that's something that we're going to continue to kind of look in to see how we can figure out some of the responses to be able to change our practice where necessary. So Arch 2, social emotional well-being, I would say that this was probably one of the biggest focuses at Placentino and probably in every school across the Commonwealth and the United States. I don't believe we can underestimate the impact of COVID on our students. Our incoming, we were looking at preschool birth dates, and we have kids who were born in March, in April, in May, and June of 2020. So some of our babies who are just entering our school in the fall, they were born right at the beginning of the pandemic. So for those first 2 years of their lives, often they did not have the same social emotional experiences that my child had when they were 1 or 2. We are seeing more and more underdeveloped skills in our youngest learners, and I think my colleagues would say across in all ages. And this isn't an anomaly to Holliston. This is everywhere. So something that we really have to think about is some of the things we're seeing, for instance, in our kindergartners, is more typical of what we might see in our 3-year-olds, but they didn't have those experiences to be able to learn from it, to be able to, that's how kids learn. They make a mistake, they learn from it, and then they develop. So we are really working hard to develop their underdeveloped skills at the same time of showing what's expected. And there's a gap between the underdeveloped skills and the expected. So when we used to think of tiering out under the MTSS model of, thinking of tier 1, 2, and 3, there's really 6 tiers now. We look at that, where our tier 1 kind of has an upper and lower. Our tier 2 kids, we tiered that out, and our tier 3 as well. So we're really looking at how to respond to students where they are and build those skills and to have appropriate interventions in place to meet them where they're at. We are really proud of the PBIS work that we are doing. We are also in year 2, and this is something that pre-K to 2 we've developed consistent language, consistent expectations. We have an amazing PBIS team that has created lessons across all our schools. So we sit on that school bus and we show them what expected behavior looks like. Our students do that as well, so that we are consistently reinforcing that. We recently had a tiered fidelity inventory, which is a person from the PBS Academy comes into our school, and I'm laughing because there was some funny things about this, but would walk up to someone and say, "What is the A in care?" Or tell me about an expected behavior. Some kids were a little taken back of, who is this stranger asking me questions? That being said, we received an 83% implementation, and the goal was 70. So we surpassed that. So we're pretty excited about that. We also had, I believe, the largest number of teachers from Placentino attend the trauma-sensitive schools class. And we are really looking forward to next year bringing together those teachers. Some of them have already taken trauma-sensitive schools 1 and 2, and Mr. Bernet is looking at bringing in trauma-sensitive schools 3 as well. There is a real need and a desire of our teachers. So looking at how they can be leaders in that work among our other teachers. We also have been having DEI lessons each month. These were created by our teachers. We had a team of teachers who met over the summer. They looked over the ADL curriculum, but they also reflected on some of the events that have happened at Placentino, some of the experiences that our students have felt. And in those moments, we had to take reactionary measures of quickly coming up with a lesson, being able to address a class. So we reflected on those trends and patterns, and we built lessons around that. So at the end of this school year, our teachers will come together, reflect again, and see which of the common themes that we want to carry into lessons for next year, but also are there other pieces that we want to address. Our school council, Shemai is here, and some of our members are here tonight. They're also helping bringing some ideas forward. And Dr. Kuska, actually, we have, it's probably the best group of, I'm a little biased, but
yeah, pretty awesome.
Our student advisory council, you have to imagine sitting around with a bunch of 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds telling you exactly what they think. It's pretty amazing. They don't care that she's the superintendent or that I'm the principal, and they tell us exactly, right?
Yeah, the same thing at the high school. I think 25 high schools tell me exactly what
but they're super cute, though. So
I
I want to pull that group back together as well and get their impact, their responses on those lessons of what they thought went well and what other things are happening that we should be able to teach about, because student voice really matters. For the summer, we are looking at having our PBIS committee come together again. We're going to do some DEI work. We might be biting off a little more than I could chew, but I said yes. We are applying for the Culturally Responsive Teaching Academy. Mr. Bernet, I think next week we'll talk a little bit about the SEL curriculum that our teachers looked into and we're hoping to adopt next year, for next school year. So that would be a train-the-trainer model that we're hoping to send 8 teachers from Placentino this summer to be trained in that. So we have a lot of things kind of happening. We didn't have a student culture survey. They did not create one for under grade 3. What they talked about in the PBIS Academy was that it's really hard to norm it on younger children. So we still felt it was really important to survey our youngest learners. We did start in kindergarten. We have to figure out the pre-K piece, and maybe that will be something that we work on next year. But the school council worked together, and we came up with a questionnaire that had 6 questions, and students did it on the computer, and it was a thumbs up, thumbs to the side, thumbs down, so sometimes, always, sometimes never. And the questions were, we think that we have clear rules at Placentino. We feel safe at Placentino, students help each other. There's a grown-up to help me, that connectiveness, and students show care. There are always to sometimes, our lowest number was 96%, so it was pretty high. I want to dig into the sometimes, to be honest with you, and what that data is showing us. And when we look at that type of survey data, those numbers are usually clumped together, but I do think it's important. We always had a higher number of always, but it is important to look at the sometimes. So I'll be meeting with the school council to talk about that, to gain some ideas of what we could do. We also did a school climate survey. And something that we have been targeting this is the feeling of connectiveness. We're a big school, and there's a lot of people who work at our school. So how do they feel connected to each other? We have a lot of new people who start at different times of the year, so often the comment was, I don't know that person walking down the hallway. So we developed a culture committee that has met monthly to figure out, and that's what we're focusing on, is staff connectiveness. Our family survey is still being filled out, There wasn't a Portuguese version of it, and we felt that we could not send it out until there was. So we had to recreate it a little bit. And then that is in the hands of our families, so we'll have that survey. And then at the end of the year, I'll kind of write a summary of all that data and send it out to families. Okay. Under Arch 3, teaching and learning. So we have been doing a lot of writing the past couple days. Our teacher evaluations are due tonight at 11:59. They're all like, stop talking, Jamie, so we can go write. And what's pretty amazing about these,
Come on.
they're not, okay. Well, Nicole might be, but the rest of us are not. Something that's really amazing when you go through these is you just get to see the amazing work of our educators. And I think about 90% of our staff adopted the same professional learning goal around adopting structured literacy. How can we change our practice? How can we increase our literacy skills of our students? In the amount of changes that have happened in the classrooms, it's visible in my walkthroughs, it's visible in student learning, but when I sit with this collective data that our teachers put together for me, and there's videos of children engaging in different instructional practices, it's truly amazing. So we've really recommitted, I've talked about toponymic awareness, we've reimagined how we teach phonics. It's more of a multisensory approach that at our tier 3, we're looking at Orton Gillingham, but there's research-based practices for tiers 1 and 2. And by the way, this is French, this is Montessori, this is traditional, this is across our entire school. We've learned how our teachers and our students are orthographically mapping words. So they are looking at words, putting them into sound boxes, being able to, there's this one video of, the word was stay, and they had to orthographically map it, so the S sound goes into one box, the T and the AY goes into a box. Why is it in the same box? Because it's one sound. When they know how to orthographically map, that helps their encoding and their decoding, and then later to their comprehension. So I could go on for days about that, but I won't. So finally, talent and resources. A lot of this is an echo of what Dr. Kuska was talking about. We are continually trying to review our onboarding of our staff. That goes to that staff connectedness. When we hire someone in the middle of the year or in March, or maybe I think we just hired someone in April, how do they feel connected to this larger staff? And how do we help them kind of bring that background knowledge that has been built all year? So that's something we're continually working on. Any questions for me?
Questions?
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go through a couple of highlights because the two really big areas of focus for us this school year were the vision of a graduate and the continued development of it, as well as the implementation of it within our day-to-day operations and working with students. And then the second big piece that we worked on this year was our NEASC self-study, and that was really a collective effort. Although we had a self-reflection committee that worked on it, it really needed to be a collective effort of the entire faculty, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So those are the two really big areas of focus. A lot of the other pieces on the slides I had talked about at the mid-year update, and we're continuing to make progress. We've completed a lot of the different goals, and we're continuing to make our way through others. I know that when Mr. Bernay comes next school committee meeting, he's going to go through a lot of the social emotional pieces, and in particular at the high school around our team that we've been working on together, where the other schools have been doing PBIS. We've been working with the social emotional behavioral team. So he'll really get into a lot of those details. I'll talk a little bit about it when we get to our second arch. So for our first arch, I really want to highlight our monthly newsletters. Those have been going out. It's really fun using Smart because you can actually see how many viewers there are, and we're averaging very high numbers every month, and so that is really rewarding because of all the time and energy we put into the newsletter. It's nice to see that families, students, educators are utilizing those resources, reading through, and getting a better sense of what's happening on a monthly basis at the high school. The other big piece in terms of communication has been translation services. So as our district continues to evolve and change, and the makeup of our student body continues to change, we want to make sure we're meeting the needs of all students and families. And so for the last several years, we've had sign language translation at our major events. Oftentimes in the past, it was at the request of a family or a student that we knew had a need at the high school. We have now, for the last 2 years, that's become our standard operating process so that families don't have to reach out. And the feedback that we've heard is that it is so nice for families who do need services to not have to ask for them, that they're provided. So at our major events, our 8th grade program of studies evening, when we went through all the different courses and our department leaders were there to meet with incoming families in March, we had sign language interpretation there as well. The other piece is that we never really know who's going to be in the audience, and so we can do our best to try to predict the needs, but we want to make sure that there are certain pieces in place so that, again, we don't have to create an environment where families don't feel like it's accessible. We want that to not be an obstacle or a barrier for them to access the services at the high school. In addition, at our program of studies evening, we had Portuguese translation and Spanish translators as well, so that our families who really needed additional services had people there that could help them and help them navigate some of the conversations with our department leaders. It's an overwhelming process to transition from any of the schools, right? You're learning a new school, you're trying to understand, coming into the high school, learning about all the different courses your students can sign up for. That's a lot of information there, and there's a lot that's shared in that evening in particular, so we really wanted to make sure that we increased our services this year, and that will be continuing forward. So those are really the big pieces in terms of communication. We've also been using a Talking Points app. It was shared with the administrators by Ms. Weingartner, who's a phenomenal educator at the high school, and that's been really helpful in terms of family communication. Difficult conversations sometimes come up with our students, and our assistant principals need to make sure that we're also providing access to all families, and so we've been utilizing that as well. Ms. Archabot has been using that quite a bit and has been modeling that with some of the other educators as well. In terms of our ARCH 2, which is really our social emotional well-being that we've been focused on, I echo the sentiments of the other principals that you've heard and from Dr. Kuska as well. This has been a huge focus for us throughout the year. We've done a lot of work around this. Our team that's been working together on a monthly basis to really identify, so our Tier 1 services, what are services for every single student in the building. For example, our advisory program. We have 2 phenomenal educators, who Ms. Lang and Ms. Kuhn, both of who were represented this evening, who really transformed our advisory program this year with a huge focus on social emotional learning. They brought joy to the school, and they brought joy back to the advisory program. They actually have sweatshirts that say Joy Spreaders. They're fantastic sweatshirts, and they enjoy wearing them on advisory days. It was really refreshing, and it was nice to see the students engage in the different activities. There's some examples of some of the activities they've been doing around the library, but it's been a really nice process to have our advisory program grow once again. It was one of the programs that was really decimated during the pandemic. A ringing endorsement for the advisory program is that we had 80 students who interviewed to be student advisory leaders for next year. That's amazing. That's our highest number in years, even before the pandemic. That, to me, speaks volumes about the experience that our 9th and 10th graders had this year, to the point where so many students, so many 10th graders wanted to step up to be our junior student advisory leaders for next year. So again, really proud of the advisory program, and the feedback from students has been really positive as well. I believe that it was Dayanara who, when she was up here presenting, mentioned our social justice roundtables. So we've partnered with Antonia Thompson, who her title is Director of Racial Justice and Equity. She's with the Middlesex District Attorney's Office. They do 4 sessions on social justice. The first 2 are more educational based, where they talk about sort of the history of some of the different events in the United States and really engage students in the curriculum. The next 2 sessions, so our 3rd session was actually today. We have 1 more session after this. They really work with the students to identify action steps moving forward. So they're starting to work on a plan for next year, and that really came from a number of students who wanted to have a greater voice based on really some of the situations or incidents that we've had earlier in the year, as well as our partnership with the ADL. We're on track to earn our distinction for year 2 of the No Place for Hate. And so we were looking at how can we include more student voice in our No Place for Hate initiative. So partnering with the Middlesex District Attorney's Office around the social justice curriculum was a natural fit, and that's been really positive so far. It's a small group. It's about 12 students that are working together, with the hope that then this goes out to a much larger audience for next year. For our third arch, and this is probably the biggest focus this year around the Vision of a Graduate and then also the NIAS self-reflection study. So for Vision of a Graduate, you've been hearing me for years talk about Vision of a Graduate. We're in a really exciting place with it. We have a really, really great Vision of a Graduate. Our 6 categories are really well thought out. They're working well together. One of the big aspects of our professional development for the first half of the year was really looking at the draft we came into for this year. And I say draft because I think it's always going to be a draft. It's always going to be a work in progress. It should be reviewed every year. We should look at, is there criteria we're missing? How do we make sure that we're meeting the needs of all learners? But we looked at that draft coming into this year, and we really worked to figure out exactly what it meant. So if the criteria said respects others, yes, and what does that mean? What does that look like in the classroom? What does that look like in extracurricular activities? What does that look like in our daily interactions? So the faculty worked really hard throughout the year, and we were able to pare down the criteria under each of the 6 categories to between 2 or 4 statements that are observable, measurable performance outcomes. If we're moving the school forward to the Vision of a Graduate, if there's 15 different items under 6 different categories to focus on, it's really hard to move everybody forward. So being able to really have intentional conversations about what are our belief systems, what do we really want to focus on, what matters at Holliston High School, that was really helpful. And so in February, we were able to get to a point where we felt like we had a really, really good working draft of the Vision of a Graduate. In March, all educators in the building, either through an activity, a lesson, a unit, something they had created, something they adjusted, something that they newly developed, brought that back to the students, and they had explicit conversations with students about the Vision of a Graduate, the activity that students were doing and how it connected to the Vision of a Graduate, and then asked for feedback from students. They brought that feedback to our second of the half PD days in March, and we put in place a protocol for teams to get together and really look at that feedback, look at the Vision of a Graduate, and I think where we've arrived is a really phenomenal place, and we're seeing the Vision of a Graduate come alive in so many areas of the school. You heard, so the first half of my presentation was really done by our amazing students and educators when they talked about the Global Citizen endorsement and they talked about the computer science endorsement. Really amazing offshoots of the Vision of a Graduate. And so we're seeing this in really concrete ways come alive and transform teaching and learning throughout the school. The other big piece that I wanted to just bring to your attention was the NIASC self-study. So NIASC is the accreditation body that comes in every 10 years. They do a big visit. They were here in 2012, 2013, and they, in the old process, would bring a team of 18 or 20 people. They would be here for 4 days. It was a pretty massive undertaking. The new 2020 standards, and actually they're looking at a 2023 right now, but the 2020 standards that we're working under, the process has changed significantly, and I think it's been much more manageable and much more meaningful for the school. We'll have a team of 5 visiting committee members come in October, so the collaborative conference is what they call it. That's scheduled for the end of October next year. They'll come in and they'll take a look. They'll be here for 2 days. They'll take a look at teaching and learning in the school. They'll meet with lots of different groups of people. They'll get feedback from everyone. And they'll look at our self-study report. In order to do the self-study report, we had a team of individuals come together, and they spent from December through March really looking at every aspect of our school as it related to the 5 standards in the 2020 NIASC standards. Those 5 standards have a ton of different principles and foundational elements and indicators, and I could do a whole separate presentation on that, but it was a lot to look at. And they looked at where are we on these. For the foundational elements, did we meet it or did we not? So one area where we said we did not meet the foundational element was a consistent, documented curriculum map or curriculum for every single course throughout, right? So we have wonderful curriculum throughout our school. Every single course is not in the same UBD, I'm saying UBD 2.0, but the same format across every single class in the school. That's okay. That's where we are now. We're making tremendous progress towards that. So we said we didn't meet that foundation element. No big deal. We're working towards it. Here's our plan. In other ones, it was the principles that we looked at, and it was on a continuum. So no evidence to transforming the world. It's not quite that, but it's transforming. And so it's a 5-point scale. Where did we work? Where did we kind of find ourselves? So we went through, we had to put together a pretty lengthy document within each of the 5 standards. We also had to talk about what we felt our strengths were and our areas of growth for each of the 5 standards. We brought that to the faculty. The faculty had a chance to read through the document. They had a chance to go through. All along, we had been gaining input from the faculty. So a group that was working on a particular standard would go back and meet with lots of different groups and different departments and bring feedback back to the self-reflection committee. We then needed to have the faculty vote approval of the report. NEASC likes for a 2/3 majority vote, although they'd love for 80%. We had a 99% vote from the faculty, which is fantastic. The sort of 1%, a couple of people said that they felt like we should be rated a little higher. So, I felt like that was a really good piece of feedback, but 99% of the faculty approved that, and so that was a fantastic rating. We then also shared with them the areas of growth and the areas of strength for all 5 standards in a big, long document, which was a Google Doc, and they had to then vote on what they felt were the 2 or 3 top areas of strength, 2 or 3 top areas of growth, and there was tremendous consistency across that as well. So the report is just about finalized. We've been submitting it to NEASC so that it's all ready to go. That's the first part of it for this year. It'll be all finalized. There's one little piece that we're finishing, and then next year in October, the visiting committee will come in and take a look. So that's been the big process. That's really taken a lot of time, both with faculty, students, feedback, across the board. And we had on our self-reflection steering committee, we had 2 students participate as well, which typically NEASC doesn't, but that's what we do here. So we had students be part of that committee as well. And then the other pieces on here were highlighted by our students who presented. Our last arch here around talent and resources, I think it's the same that you've heard, and I'm sure you'll hear again with Miller. The big focus next year for the high school is really going to be on onboarding. There'll be a lot of new faces at the high school, and it's really how do we take, how do new faculty come on board, understand the vision of a graduate, understand sort of what the history of the high school has been so that they can continue the positive trajectory and then just continue to improve and make it better.
So thank you. I also just, since this is probably the last time you'll be presenting to us, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your 13 years of service to the district, 10 as principal leading the high school. I think that's great, and I don't know, I can't remember if it's been brought up at the school committee or not, but also to your Principal of the Year award. Don't need to embarrass you or put you on the spot, but I do think that these achievements are worth recognizing. So thank you very much, and good luck in your next adventure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I never get to go last. In my 23 years, I don't think I've ever gone last. So whatever they say, ready to go. All right, so under Arch 1, how are we communicating our stories? I think we do it pretty well. Erica and Bobby French are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, constantly putting up pictures of our story at Miller. Our curriculum coordinators are sharing, and I think one came out yesterday,
it'll be next week.
The newsletter. Well, you sent out something yesterday. That I found.
Right, but we'll have the newsletter next week.
Got it. But it's coming. They had one out already. We had community readers come into school, and that is always fun. Some of you came into the building, and we get community readers community members across the district. Dr. Kuska's been in and talked with our student, and you know what? They do have voice. One of the things they wanted, we had seats that were they were 23 years old, and we brought it up. We have all new toilet seats now at Miller School. Put that one in the book.
We get stuff done.
We had athletes participating in Special Olympics, which is always a lot of fun. We join up with Ashland, Medway, Medfield and Millis, and this year it was in Ashland, and just seeing the joy in the students' faces when they're there. And just last Wednesday, we had an emergent bilingual night where we had over 100 people there between Placentino and Miller. It was so much fun. Thanks to the Lions, they came and they cooked burgers and hot dogs, and
then
the families
yeah.
brought potluck suppers. So it was a little bit of everything. There was so much food, but
Really
they
good
were
food.
there. We had to boot them out the door. They were having so much fun. And so that goes into, you know, how are we communicating with our families, and to see the joy in everybody's, and this is so that our families can meet each other and just see who their friends, their child's friends are in the building. Under social emotional, Jamie talked about the trauma course. I had 4 teachers take trauma 1 and trauma 2. I had 2 take the second one. Now we want to see where that's going to go. How can we bring that back to the school and teach others about what to look for and what they can do. Our PBIS really ran this year. We started RISE this year. We used to be SHINE. We're now RISE. And, you know, Jamie talked about the person coming in doing the tiered fidelity inventory. She said we rocked it. Everybody they asked, and they do. They go up to kids in the cafeteria and they sit next to them. You know, you've got 5th graders going like this, looking at them, like, who are you? But we got mostly 4s and some 3s. And she said, you know, we were just doing a great job with that. Jeriel's going to roll out next week the SEL piece and what we're looking for in the school. They've been doing a lot of research over the course of the year. And we had, one of the things, we had a group of 14 doing the culturally responsive education through Adaptive X. One of the big takeaways is how do you build relationships with your students in your classroom? How do you get to know them? As simple as before they even enter your classroom, do you know how to say their name? You know, how do you, and that seems so simple, but it's not. Students want to come in knowing that you know them. And so getting to know the cultures in the building, and so a big part of the course is building the relationships, not only with the students, but with the community. Teaching and learning, our big focus this year was on writing. Bill Atwood came in. He came in, I think we had him in for 2 full days, and we had him in for 2 half days where he modeled in the classroom. Writing, we found through the MCAS that it went downhill during COVID. It just, you know, students lost the stamina to put anything down on paper. So what Bill started with was, how do you get kids just to write something down? Don't make it this heavy project where they've got to do a 5-paragraph. Just get them writing and putting it down on paper. And the Steelers. Gotta get that in.
There was a weird raindrop. I know. Okay.
Our literacy specialist, Lisa O'Brien, went to every grade level, and she's started to do a scope and sequence and mapping of our writing curriculum, not just at each grade level, but the teachers were actually looking at it vertically. What is being taught in 3rd grade? What's being taught in 5th grade if you're a 4th grade teacher? So that's been really a lot of the work that we've done curriculum-wise in our building. Our win blocks in 3rd grade were a huge success also. What I need, really focusing in on some of the assessments we do at the beginning of the year, Dibbles and Maze and the STAR assessment we were using, and how do we break by grade, how do we push in services but have the teachers teaching other kids? They weren't just teaching their own students. We had them switching classrooms. This was a huge push in grade 3, and there were bumps, and we're going to revisit how we did it, but we've seen huge gains in the scores that the students have from where they were benchmarked. We are starting our third round of STAR next week, and I'm really excited to see the gains that we had. I wish we had that for you tonight to be able to present that, but we can put that together over the summer when we do that. The other big piece is the math curriculum review. I was on the committee, loved it. We narrowed it down to 3 that came and presented to us. They presented pre-K through grade, I think we were doing through grade 8 was our presentation. Part of the things we were looking at, and we looked at, is it teacher friendly? Does it get good results? What are the assessments like? We also, because we're Holliston, needed to see if it was in French. And so have all those qualities. So at kindergarten, first and second, we wouldn't be getting a different resource. We could be using the resources that everybody else. So we're now going to be getting some kits from them so that we can have teachers pilot. I don't want to go into more detail because we're not quite there, but it's been a great experience. The last thing I want to do on teaching and learning, we are looking at how we can get more science in the classroom and health. What we found is that we were only doing 50 minutes a week in a pull-out science. So we are working on a plan to get more science in the classroom, and you'll hear more about that. And health in the Unified Arts, you'll hear more about that next year. Lastly, under talent and resources. So why I put this here is we need to listen to our staff when we do a climate and culture survey. We need to look at, what are some of the areas that they're concerned about. We also need to look at what the students say about that survey. So every student took it. I would say 98% of the staff took it. Like Jamie said, surveys were a little low on parents. Only about 46 parents out of 600 took it at Miller, so can't really use that data. But some of the things that we found, some of the highest that were on there for students was, my school wants me to do well, and there is an adult at my school who will help me if I need it. One of the things we also have to realize, we were able to compare this nationally, and our result, everybody's in our same boat. What's that? It's out of 4, yes. Sorry. 3 is not bad. So the big takeaways we found that students and staff, student behavior in the classroom, and we see this as something across the board, but we're finding that the PBIS is helping with that. And part of PBIS is a Swiss reporting system, which is system-wide information system where teachers are logging, if kids are having issues in the classroom. That way we can track this over a period of time. It's our first year doing it, so we will get better at it. We'll get better at reading the data that's there. The other thing is school safety. Our teachers took this, I think, a week after the Tennessee shootings. And so, school safety's on their mind. One of the big things are locked doors, key fobs. We've got them installed. We're looking to move forward.
The teachers still don't? Those are still not in place?
Not there, and so teachers need to use keys to get into the building. So we're working on, that coming in. And building maintenance, and it comes very timely in this because at the capital request that the school committee did were new roofs at Miller and Placentino, and we were leaking, and that was a big thing teachers were talking about, the leaks in the building, and we are going to be working on that because they are looking at replacing those. So those were the big things. Our committee's going to be meeting this summer to go into more of those things, and happy to answer any questions.
Couple quick questions. On the math pilot.
Yep.
Just kind of give me a timeline on that.
I
New
would
materials
imagine
coming?
it would be first part of next year. We would look for, we had a grade level representative at each grade, but we still need to roll out, whether that's going to start right at the beginning of the year or whether that's going to, and there were 3 programs, so which grades would do which programs. So that's still up in the air. And so Joni and James Lavassier are running that piece, but excited, we're moving forward.
And when do you expect to have more information on the timeline? For which grades it applies to, when it starts, what that looks like?
So what we're doing is actually, we'll start piloting in the fall. I'm reporting out later on my report, so do you want to wait?
I can hold
I was going to do, okay. So, yeah.
And Dave, can you just again explain the wind walk and the benefits of it? My understanding it's about 30 minutes.
It's 30 minutes long.
And it allows
So
kids that
one teacher might be looking at phonemic awareness.
Mm-hmm.
One teacher might be looking at word study. Another teacher may take, kids who have those skills already and be doing book studies. But it's not new learning. What it is working on skills that there may be a deficit in. And it's maybe 8 weeks. And then we give a mini assessment and see if we're going to switch those groups up. And so right now we did it 30 minutes long, and so and we had a whole grade doing it at the same time. Next year what we want to do is split it into maybe 4 teachers and 4 teachers so we can really push in the resources instead of spreading it out over 4 classrooms at that time.
And as part of the idea that you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you need pull out for OG, you're not missing regular
Correct.
Okay.
The hope is that is where that's going to happen. Doesn't always, because there might be other skills or groups may be too large, so they may need to get it at another time.
Mm-hmm.
But the hope is that they're not being pulled out of your math class. They're not pulled out of your language reading class. This is separate from the classroom instruction.
And does it allow for small group differentiated learning
Yes,
too? So
absolutely.
enrichment work is going on, small
Yep.
group work is going on?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. And the Swiss program, the reporting,
Yep.
this is the first year with that data?
First year, and we probably put it in October where teachers were doing it, and some teachers are better than others. And
What's the burden? I guess my question, it sounds like important data for you,
Yep.
and it's just the beginning of it, and I'm sure you're looking at it, but I worry about the increased burden on a daily, on a weekly basis for reporting data on all of your kids in a classroom. Are
But
there
it's
ways?
more of a
How do you
here
make it
in
easier?
time sort of thing. So
Okay.
if they're sending somebody to the office or if they've got something, they're inputting it immediately. So it's not going back and doing it later. But if they want us to help them solve problems, we need to know when it's happening. Is it happening certain times because it'll log what time it's happening or where it's happening? Is it in this classroom but not this classroom? Is it happening at specials? So it's supposed to help us in that.
Yeah, and our teachers have reported in the beginning when they were just getting used to it, it took longer, and now it doesn't. It's kind of second nature, where Miller did it across their school. We piloted this year. We're going to do it across our school next year. The data is really important, and it's important in the sense of, so there's Dave, I think, Mr. Kine presented mid-year some of his data, and we're talking about the number of office referrals or the number of a high number of referrals, such a small percentage. When you're living it, it doesn't feel like a small percentage. So that helps with that idea that volume doesn't always equal volume, and it helped that, wow, we're almost close to 90% are not at that piece. So it helps kind of reshape that culture too of when you're feeling and seeing some of those unexpected behaviors, you think, gosh, this is happening all the time. But when you're actually taking data to look at it, it's not as much. And that's the piece that, Dave was able to bring back to his staff. And actually, I used his numbers to bring back to our staff to help reframe some of that piece too. So we did ask our teachers about the ease of use, and they said it's pretty quick. It becomes pretty second nature. A lot of our teachers are having to take data anyways. We have individual data sheets for students on different unexpected behaviors, and this can take the place of that. So, and then it tracks it, and then we can graph it, and we can look at it. But what our goal is to help decrease those behaviors. So if we're able to see it and we're able to really pinpoint it, then we're able to intervene, teach underdeveloped skills, and then it goes down, and then they'll report less.
Right.
Thank you.
But the idea is it's more real time.
It's real time. Yeah.
Just quickly on the maintenance, this is more just a comment, and we can get into it because it's really more for probably Keith, but it's the plan, as far as you guys know, to do the roofs over the summer?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I've touched base, when we go through budget later, I can put a bit of an update on that and we can talk more about that, but I'm really optimistic. I mean, that was
very timely that we got it, so thank you.
Really thankful for the collaboration between groups in town to get that money. And as people recall, there was some small portion that we had way back in 2020, but this is a much bigger scope, because I think with collaboration with the town, James, I always say the last name wrong. Keith.
Yep.
Okay, I'll work on it. They were able to inspect it, identify more of the issues, and get up there. And I think the hope was to address it this summer.
Good. And I thought that was the case, but I just want to make sure that we're on track, because there's also then I think a 3-year plan or something to do the rest of the
other areas,
the other areas, the flowers.
Right.
Because this is just the shingle portion.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, go do those evals.
Yeah.
For us to be here. Thank you guys very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. It's going to bathroom.
And go.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
I know, I was just going to do it.
moving on, there's nothing for policy. So central office administrators update. We've had a lot, so hopefully there's not too much more.
I'm going to table my comments so that they've been covered.
Okay, great.
Is Keith still here? Yes, I do. Is Keith going?
Keith is here. Keith, would you like to report?
Oh, he's coming on. Shoot, can you get him on the big board or not?
Hang on.
I have nothing, thank you.
That is perfect.
Wow, all right.
Okay, so I just have a quick few updates. Just a huge shout out to Ms. Mills at the high school for doing service learning project presentations on May 23rd. It was incredible to hear all of the varied projects the high schools presented. A huge shout out to Placentino and Miller for their emergent bilingual night. I was present, and Principal Keim is absolutely right. It was a wonderful evening for parents and families. On the 31st, just yesterday, seems like forever ago, Ida Pappas was able to arrange a French immersion visit with Manchester, New Hampshire schools, looking at Holliston Public Schools, how we do our French immersion program here, and the French Educational Consulate came to visit us. On Monday, June 5th, we will be hosting a virtual teaching and learning informational evening. Some of the topics that will be covered is all of the resources that we have on our newly revised website, reasons for curriculum alignment, our district strategic plan, our district curriculum review process, district review cycle, how we map curriculum, the curriculum map standards by unit that the teachers have been hard at work on, our current Massachusetts frameworks, DESE's Center for Instructional Support, Holliston's report card from DESE, our district curriculum accommodation plan, as well as DESE Family Framework Guide for families. So please come to our evening. Our curriculum newsletter will be coming out next week, and we will have a 4th one coming out before the end of the school year. I'd like to welcome our 2 new school committee members. I'll very briefly go, since you were not part of the the committee yet. I'll very briefly update you on what's been going on with the math curriculum review. So it started in September. To kind of back up, we made a document of the curriculum review cycle based on DESE's guidance. And then we started our math curriculum review in September. James is leading it. I've been present at all except one. We began with a team of 14 administrators and teachers from all 4 schools. We've added some additional high school teachers to the review. We identified our our vision of mathematics instruction that's directly aligned to the strategic plan as well as vision of a graduate. And then we created a description of what we want this vision to look like inside the classroom. Again, this is the committee. This is not just James and I doing it. This is everybody from all 4 schools. We conducted a gap analysis, reviewed our current curriculum from pre-K through 12 plus to identify which standards are covered and which are not adequately covered. We identified our strengths and weaknesses of our current curriculum by analyzing that gap analysis, also using MCAS scores or STAR data and common assessments to judge where we're at. We are also looking at local neighboring district information, and everything that we are looking at is either Curate or Ed Reports rated, and that means it's tied directly to Massachusetts state frameworks. So what Principal Keim alluded to, the elementary school teachers, we have narrowed it down to iReady Classroom Mathematics, Envision 2024, and Eureka Math. Rams in the high school have narrowed it down to Envision or Salvis, Reveal Math, which is McGraw-Hill, and Illustrative Math, which is also McGraw-Hill. So we already had, at the elementary school level, demos for all 3 of those. So what is happening is, the beginning of fall, not right at the beginning, but in the fall, all 3 of those will be piloted. And then they'll report back to the committee. We will use that information to make recommendations to the superintendent, which gets moved on up to you. At the high school and Rams, we are looking at piloting those also in the fall with the same timeline to make recommendations in December. So no leveling is going to be changing at all for next year. It will be, the discussion will continue. We will bring parents in, we'll bring community members in, and continue the conversation. Yes?
In terms of the demo of the new math materials, who was part of that?
The whole curriculum council.
Okay.
Yes.
Who's on the curriculum?
Oh, well, I said 14, but we've added some high school teachers now. The beginning, it was myself, James, Karen Archibald, Cassie Cognan-Taylor, Victoria Roy, Jesse Conant, Jen Dayton, Deb Mailing, David Keim, Carrie Pepperall, Colleen Bartlett, Christine Phipps, Nicole Lovell, Lindsay St. Aubin, Meg Nolan, Adrian Beaver, Christine Mariano, Ann Canoni is joined, Bob Tiven is joined. And we also had additionally some 8th grade teachers the last time we brought in. So it's a wide variety.
So is it fair to say it's something like 2 to 5 educators from each of the 4 schools? Or
I'd have to count them.
Okay.
Yes, but the elementary schools are extremely well represented.
Okay. And then by piloting it, what does that mean? How many classrooms is that? And then how do we?
It's going to be determined on how many people are willing to do it,
okay.
Right? So what will happen is we're looking at a whole unit for each curricula in the fall. So we'll ask for teacher volunteers. Those teacher volunteers will come back to the committee and express what they thought about it and having discussions. So we don't want just one person piloting it. All of these have been vetted by the Massachusetts teachers already, saying that these meet the requirements of the Massachusetts frameworks. So nothing is being considered that has not been vetted and approved by DESE already. So that is the starting point for even the discussion. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So moving on, who's covering personnel, the future health professionals?
So we had 2 additional stipends that were recommended this year to move forward. One of them is HOSA, Health Organization for Student. I don't have the, I'm I'm blanking out on the acronym, sorry, it's a little bit late. But anyhow, one of them is a health group for students. And then Women in Science is the second one. So we did negotiate the standards. I think Keith might have the factors available. So I'll let him, or that we negotiated, but we would like you to approve them so that we can move forward with those 2 clubs for next year as well. Keith, are you there?
Yes. The factor that was negotiated for HOSA was a 1 for time and a 2.8 for responsibility. And for Women in Science, it was a 1 for time and a 1 for responsibility.
And just for kind of a process or just explaining for some of the newer members, this is the stipends. These 2 groups were piloted this year, right? Can we just back up and explain a little bit?
Yes, and we tried to tighten up the process because last year we had, after the budget season and into the summer, we had about $20-something thousand worth of stipends that weren't budgeted for, brought forward to me that I wasn't aware of, and that became complicated, which kind of backed up this process a little bit. So we really fine-tuned so that it is delineated in the contract that in year 1, a staff member would propose, because students would usually come forward and recommend they wanted to try something, and then they ask a staff member to support them. So the first year it goes as a pilot, that it's not a paid opportunity, and then at the end of the year, the principal would then move it forward if they're going to recommend it, and then we would start to negotiate factors, and then for the following year, we would implement that club with the stipend and post it so that a staff member could apply for it as well. So we do have a number of clubs that were negotiated this year that I brought to you earlier in the year. These ones, because they didn't get recommended until this year, will be coming forward for next year.
Okay, so are these, the descriptions, are these in the folder somewhere? Did I just miss it?
I'm not sure if they were ended up in the folder or not. There really isn't a description of the extracurricular club. It's just the factors that we would share with you.
Okay, and were these included in the budget that we approved at town meeting as far as, were these additional?
Keith, can you just talk to them? They're not, these are not expensive ones. What we would have to do for any of the stipends in some of these, it's an annual, the stipends, because of the experience factor, we never can really lock down on what it's going to be. It's kind of an order of magnitude of what our delta is going to be with it. This year, we're probably going to end up moving some textbooks just because the high school's historically underfunded some or underspent textbooks. We really don't have a big thing coming up on the horizon, so we will move some of the textbook money over to cover the shortage there.
So I can share that. So the budget amount was about, Keith had shared, about $110,000 was budgeted for the stipends, and that's just for the high school extracurricular. And because of these new additions that were not put into the budget in a timely manner, they came out for FY23 at almost $115,000, so we were $5,000 over there, and that was problematic, which is why I had to tighten up that process. And then for next year, they would come to about $117,000. The high school did look at some of the ones to move and shift, and one of them was eliminated that hasn't been really vetted or been used by students. So that's where Keith is talking about the shifting, looking at another line item, because again, it's hard to budget for them after the fact, but the process gets us to this point that we can't negotiate them until between March and May.
So are you seeking a motion for approval of this?
Just to add those two, because what will happen in the next reiteration of the collective bargaining agreement, we would want to add all of the new stipends that were voted on this year and put them in the booklet so that people would see those in there as well.
So I can make a motion to approve HOSA, Future Health Professionals, and the Women in Science Clubs.
Second.
Okay, so before we do that, though, I would like to do a sort of review of our stipends at budget. Obviously, that's not something we do here. I do also think that there's more of a holistic look at how there seems to be a lot of sort of multiple factors, and maybe there's a way of sort of tightening things up so there's a clear set of expectations and sort of rules regarding. I know there are going to be new stipends that could come up that are needed sort of a framework to do themselves, but for established ones that are sort of year-to-year constant things. And the last thing is, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, how much is this for these two stipends?
Let me see if I have it in front of me here. Keith, do you have the actual amount? Because it was what did you say, a one?
It's not much. It's, where am I, HOSA, with an experience factor of 1, because the first year they're doing it officially, it would be $1429.44. And for women in science, again, with an experience factor of 1 would be $893.40.
Okay, so $2,200 or so and change.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
great. So we had a second on that motion?
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I was wondering, can I ask a question directly from, like, can you speak a little bit about the unified arts, fine arts, and French immersion have been combined under the supervision of a single individual?
Yeah, so one of the things that Joni and I learned a lot last year is it seemed to be a struggle. A lot of our stipend positions, department leads at the high school, often were the ones that were also the K-12 positions that you're describing for world languages was a high school department leader, also was the pre-K to 12 world languages coordinator district-wide. Then we had a fine and performing arts, similar, was a high school department leader, but was district-wide, helping to work on fine and performing arts. And then we also had a wellness person. We had 2 people splitting the stipend for wellness, but all of these roles are locked into either full-time teaching schedules, and this is in addition to, or they have one block of their curricular at the high school eliminated, so they don't teach as many blocks as a traditional high school teacher, but still they're locked into that rotating schedule. So how do they get out into all the buildings to do that work? That was the challenge we ran into. And that's why we looked at this, how do we pre-K to 12 align that work? And that's when I came forward with those pre-K to 12 3 curriculum coordinator positions last year. And those roles now are freed up full-time to do this work, and they're literally in every building every week. So the goal and the plan was to have each one of them rotate at least one full day a week through each of the 4 buildings, and then on the 5th day they work with Joni and catching up on anything else that they need to work on together, and that's where you see a lot of progress has been made. So yes, now we have one person doing those, but that one person is in all 4 buildings, whereas it was quite a struggle to get the people to get, if you're in a high school schedule, how do you actually, when the work is needed down at the pre-K2 building, how do you leave your building to get there? And that's where we found the struggle.
And not all the positions were filled at the high school before either, so some of them were not represented.
Right, we didn't have a world language coordinator for 2 years since I've been in my first year. There was no one that wanted to do that position, so there was nobody going to the buildings to do that work. However, we also do have grade level and team leaders at the middle and elementary schools, so those people do work with their building. Like we have a Montessori one, we have a French immersion one, we have similarly at the middle school we have different subject areas represented. So our full-time coordinators go and work with the grade level leaders, team level leaders, and go to PLCs as well.
And we still have department leaders at the high school.
We still have department leaders at the high school as well. Yep, grade level at the elementary, team leaders at the middle school, and department leaders at the high school.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So do we have any reports from any subcommittees? And since we just reformed them, I'm not entirely sure that we will, but if there's anyone has anything that they want to bring up.
I'm just going to bring up my meeting date. Our next meeting is June 8th from 2:30 to 4:30.
For policy. Okay, great.
If Sarah can go.
When is it?
Oh, you're not going to come to the last one?
Oh, should I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to unless Sarah can.
I will be
glad.
What's the time?
It's 2:30 to 4:30.
On June 8th.
On June 8th, which is next Thursday. If you can make it, then Amanda's off the hook.
They have soccer game, but I think it's...
With Sarah in there, maybe we could do it morning.
We've already posted the agenda and everything.
You can, I mean, we have plenty of...
You can change it.
You can change it to the time, we just don't change the agenda.
2:30 to 4:30.
Why
We can change the time.
Why don't you guys work on
I
that?
don't know if Susan can make it.
I feel like I'm completely booked
I
out.
have Susan and Joni and Keith are all in the meeting,
And
so I
Jess
can't
is
just...
coming, a lot of...
Yeah, so several people have already RSVP'd for it.
Why don't you guys work
Let's
on...
have an away game at 5.
Why don't you guys work on that offline?
Yeah, we can do that.
Just see if we can, so we can
Yeah, move along.
move along. Okay.
That's fine.
Still have lots to do. So old business, school calendar, changing PD days.
So let me see if I can pull that up.
Oh, could I say something about the communication subcommittee?
Oh, yeah, please, sorry.
Thanks. So I'll speak with you folks after about creating a meeting time. But as the new chair, I just want to say, because communication is such a huge issue all around, it's what everybody's talking about, that I'm really looking forward to having the 3 of us work with everybody to find more involved ways for communication in addition to the awesome newsletters that we already put out, but looking into really expanding the role of the communications subcommittee as far as getting input and involving more communication between us and the staff, as well as other community members.
Great, more communication, more better.
Yep, more and more effective.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut anyone else off.
No, that's fine.
Anything else? Okay. So, changing PD days.
So Joni and I, we had heard from the high school that there's a conflict for the February PD days that we had proposed before. So we looked at February again, and
just so you know, it's a science MCAS test for the high schoolers.
Right. So we initially had proposed it for February 7th, and because of the science MCAS, we'd like to move that to February 28th. We've got the Valentine's Day, we did not think was a good day. We're trying to stick to Wednesdays and Fridays, depending on the time of the year. So we thought the 28th would work better for that one, and that was the only change, I think.
Correct.
And that's a full PD day?
That's the full, yes.
Okay.
Any comments, objections?
It's so close to April vacation.
I know.
I mean, February
February
vacation
vacation.
is the only thing, like they go back for 2 days and they have another day off. Is there any way we could put it in March?
Let me just look at March.
March has other MCAS.
I think the issue too with the full day
It's
PD is that we do so much work on the full day PD, and the teachers want time to then implement that work.
I know,
whereas
but
the
if it was like a
shorter-
week later, is there an MCAS on like March 6th?
Well, this year our last PD full day was in January, so we're already much later as it is.
I know, I just feel like going back after Feb vacation for 2 days.
The
is
other
so
option would
rough.
be to
What about the
go
9th?
to January 31st, which would give us a full day and a half day there and avoid February altogether.
When is the semester end for the high school?
Oh, I think that was, yeah.
That's
the
the
issue.
conflict, right?
What about the 9th of February? Because you had 7th was a Wednesday, and you said you're trying to stick to Wednesdays and Fridays?
You know, we could do a Friday if that was something that people would.
If people wanted to do the 9th, could we do that?
I'm sorry, Cynthia, the 9th of what?
Of February, sorry.
Take the 7th and move it to the
Yeah.
9th is what the
So
suggestion
that it's still in the same, you know.
So, here's my proposal. Could you look into that and see if there's any reason why the 9th wouldn't work, and then come back to us and we can make that change next meeting?
Yeah, and I honestly don't know that you have to vote on
You don't,
changes
just
like that. It's just the
advise us.
beginning and end of the year.
Yeah.
So if that's what you'd like us to put,
If the 9th
Yeah.
works, I think
we
that
wouldn't have to bring it back for a vote. We
I
could just
agree.
give you an update.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, no problem.
All right, can you make a note of that? Thank you.
You good?
May I ask just the half day on the 10th?
10th
Of January, sorry. Yes, I point to the screen. The half day on the 10th. I know traditionally we almost created like a 4-day weekend over Martin Luther King, or even like a half day and then a 4-day weekend, and it often aligned before exams were going to happen. Or what was the thought behind moving it to a Wednesday and earlier in January?
I'm trying to remember. I think an issue that we have had is that we have a lot of, on PD days when they fall on a Friday, we do
Yes.
have a lot higher incidence of absences.
Of a
And
long
then
weekend, right?
And that's why I do worry about having a full day on a Friday.
Yes.
Because
Yeah, that's hard.
like the data that we had this year, and then we put so much time and energy and try to do things that everybody needs, and if literally 50, 60 people are missing it sometimes, I mean, it was a lot. on
There
Fridays.
was a
So the
substantial
principals had
amount of
asked us to try to avoid Fridays as much as possible for that reason, because we want them to be more robust. So that was kind of where that came from.
Well, then in that same vein, would you not want to do February 9th, because that's a
I
Friday?
would prefer not to for that
But at
reason,
least
but
it's
I'm
not a
open
long
to.
weekend.
And that's going to be that's a full day, and that
Yeah.
will be it will be unfortunate if a lot of people miss it, because there's going to be a lot of valuable information.
But like, I don't think we can make our schedule, I mean, I think it's important to consider that, but I don't think I don't know. That's on the teachers to not miss it.
I know, it just makes implementation of
Yeah.
things hard. Like that we're trying to add some more science training next year.
Yeah.
So then if the people that need that training, then how do we make it up? That's where it is a challenge. I mean, the other option is put it on Thursday, we could.
That's what I was going to say, what about doing it on the Thursday instead?
You're doing it on the 15th?
Or just keep it on the 8th.
I don't think we could do it the 8th because that was the makeup, wasn't that?
Isn't that also the
Correct.
MCAS?
I think- Yeah, I think
that's the
that,
makeup.
I think the
Okay.
7th and the 8th was the problem. So it would be the
I don't-
15th.
We can't, no. We're not going to go back for one day before February vacation. I think we keep it the 9th, and like, it's one Friday, most of them are not on Fridays. The teachers are getting a week off the following week for February vacation.
The hardest thing though, from like the district standpoint is if you have your full day on a Friday, and we are moving so much curriculum and training forward, and if a large majority were absent, like they were this year.
Literally a majority are
There was a
absent?
large amount absent. It was very
I'm confused
noticeable.
by that.
Why?
Because isn't it, they're contractually obligated for those 4 days of PD, right? That's, we give 4 full days of PD.
Do we have a policy for like how PD is made up if you are sick?
It's very hard to recreate all of that. You know, there's a lot of different presenters and a lot of different outside vendors coming in, especially with new math curriculum, it would be outside vendors coming in, which we can't financially repeat the same training.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of vendors will not let you tape it.
We ran into that.
They will not allow you to tape it, even if you're just using it for your internal use.
I mean, I just don't think we make these policies based on like high absentee rates from teachers.
I don't disagree. I'm just giving you the feedback that we got from the principals.
Right,
And
and the
from-
problem is then we're gonna have to arrange to make up that work.
Yep.
Which is a lot of work on our end.
Yep.
Because they're missing out on the professional development, and then we have to figure out how are they gonna get that? Which means probably we're gonna have to pull them out of class to make that up.
No.
Well, that's.
But that's the reality. I mean, that's the reality. I'm sorry.
Could you do the half day in February on the 9th and then a full day on the 16th in January? I don't know. how
No,
you-
because of we got feedback, we did our full day in January 27. We got a lot of feedback from the high school teachers that it was right around when they were shifting classes, and they're like, please do not have it in January.
Okay. What about the first week of March?
Then
The
it's
6th of March.
too late to implement,
But if we
like,
were going to be February 28th, can we just do it one more week? Like, is it really, it's not really too late to implement if it's a week later. We have PDs
I'm
through
just telling you
May.
what feedback we got,
I know.
so
I mean, Joni attends the PD council, so this is where.
Yeah,
it's
so
all-
you know all
We do
more
try to
about
listen to
this than
teacher
I'm-
voice,
this
and we
is my
had.
opinion,
so
yes.
We did hear a lot of the educated
correct.
voices about
We
PD
did hear a
too.
lot, so.
So why are we not doing it on the 12th? It's a Monday.
The same issue as the 9th.
Right,
You know, we just
exactly.
said
It's a weekend.
It was a weekend
That's the
issue, so,
weekend, yeah.
you know, there's no good day or bad day here at this point. They're all, there's reasons and pros and cons.
So what's our decision?
I think Mondays are more likely because even people travel, they tend to be back on Sunday evenings. Because I don't know, I feel that Mondays would have more.
I don't know that it matters whether it's a Monday or Friday, to be honest with you.
It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
We would have the same issues. Yeah.
Okay, so the PD council wanted to do the full days on a Wednesday, correct?
No, that was more the principals. that
Correct.
scoured
Oh,
it,
okay.
but then the
Correct.
PD council, I think, agreed with
Gotcha.
that when we
Okay.
talked
Yes.
about it, yeah.
Yes. Because we did talk about absenteeism with the PD council.
So are we
So-
moving to the 6th to that?
So it looks like to me that it has to be either February 9th or March 6th, which would be less
Right.
terrible.
All right. I think, let's look at these here,
I'd
that's
go
a
with
full
the
month
6th, I
later
think
than
that-
what
I
they were
would go with
expecting.
March 6th.
I'd probably
yeah.
go with the 6th.
I
And then if
As
we'll
long as
bring
we
it back
need
to
to
the
find
principals
out
to
though
see if there's
about
nothing else.
MCAS dates though, because
Okay.
March is
Yeah.
MCAS dates.
But aren't we trying to push our MCAS dates later anyway, just so we make sure we get the right content?
Some we don't
And so-
have any say.
And some
Like
of it
they
is-
dictate some.
Yeah, and
Yes.
sometimes
Right.
it's the tech integration staff needing the support, so we have to.
Okay.
So
rewrite it.
first choice, March 6th.
second
If there's
choice.
an MCAS, second choice, February 9th.
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. New business, meeting scheduled for 23-24. That is in the packet. I can't think about next
I can't
week.
find it.
So,
We can table it if you want, but at least you have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
My only thought is we just might
I don't
want
have
to
any comments right now.
add some things or shift some things around. I just think that
We
we're.
tried to look at, one of the things that I was trying to avoid is, we've had people ask us, why are we having school committee nights when there's theater going on across the hall and things like that? And I think that does create a problem because parents may want to attend a school committee meeting, but they don't want to miss their student show. And I've always, in other districts I've been, we try to avoid having special events as much as possible.
I'd like to go to those shows.
Right, but I mean, it is available other nights, but still there are parents that might want to be there for that, and they can only, so.
There was another one you switched around because of parent conferences one night.
Yep, so we moved some of these just today, based on Lisa's original proposal, just to try to avoid some of.
And then we found this year we did not have enough meetings right at the beginning of the year. We don't know if you remember that, but we needed to present more to you at the beginning of the year.
September's crazy, so we we only had one in October, but we put 2 in October for that reason, because I feel like if once school gets open, then we've really got to get into the nitty-gritty, start our school goals and start presenting that.
There's going to be so much going on next year that I think we might want to, if not officially plan for them, just start thinking about, the fact that we might need more meetings.
No, thanks.
No, I'm not, just something to.
With you, but yeah.
Tonight was unusual because of, we got backed up in certain presentations. We ended up changing some dates there was some conference that we had, which ended up being much more in the one night than normal, plus we ended up doing reorg, which we wouldn't have, and so this was unusually heavy for having this much on one meeting.
No, absolutely. I'm aware of that. All right, well, let's think about this over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, can we table this, but can we,
Sure.
this is in our packet, so then we can all look at our calendars and stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what my goal would be, to try to get it on your calendars sooner than later for all of us to lock those in.
Okay, so table it for now, and we'll come back to it next time. Newsletter.
No newsletter
have one.
because we just reorged.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just on there, so making sure we have it. Okay, so our next meeting is June 15th, 7 p.m. I think, unless I'm missing something, that brings us to the end of our regular public session.
Nope, just executive session.
Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for purpose 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, to discuss strategy with respects to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigating positions of the public body, and the chair so declares, and from which we will not return.
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded by Amanda.
Okay, that does require a roll call vote to enter executive session. Minnie?
Yep.
Okay.
Sarah? Amanda?
Yeah, no, I would.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Dan? Yes. So with that, we are adjourned. We will see you in 2 weeks at 10:23, so we are 7 minutes ahead of schedule.